Alrighty. Let's see. Looks like my mic is coming through okay. How is the volume, everybody? Can you guys hear us all right? Nazeris is back. I see the Nazeris.
Okay.
Can I? Yep, I hear you.
Hi.
Oh,
We're
07
starting so soon.
Kedron. Yeah. Socially confused.
Okay.
07, good to see you this evening. Kedron, thanks for coming and hanging out. Chimpasta, hello, buddy. Is the volume okay, everyone? Can you hear me all right? And can you hear Nazaris all right? Nazaris, can you say hi?
Hello. Hi. How's everyone going? Doing? It's fine.
07, C Daddy, what's up, buddy? Yeah, because I can
Hi.
I can dial you up on Discord a little bit, but you're maxed out on my mixer, and my mic is maxed out on my mixer.
Naz is 5% lower. I definitely
Okay,
have stuff I can tweak on my end too.
if you can bump it up just a tad, that way I don't
How
have
is
to go back
that?
and forth. That sounds beautiful, amazing.
I mean, I could also get like stupid close to the mic.
We don't need to do that. You'll
I'll
get
just talk like
animated
this.
and then blow my ears out. Alrighty.
Ears? What
So,
are these ear things you speak of?
welcome everyone to episode 67 of the Pathfinders podcast. We are
That
the
Naz did not
Pathfinders.
spoil.
Yeah. We are the Pathfinders. I am Trio0311 here with my partner in crime.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nazeris.
And yeah, we're the Pathfinders, and we are charting the way through all the nebulous information surrounding Star Citizen Squadron 42 and their development. Yeah, very, very close to the magic number. We did last episode was episode 66, so we executed Order 66 on the podcast. You're gonna adjust my mic a little bit. Turn this way, Mike. There you go. But yeah, so this evening we've got an interesting show. It's been a couple weeks, and a lot of that is my schedule is just wild, wild right now, and so it's been hard for Naz and I to line up our schedules, mostly because of my schedule with work and everything I've got going on. But been eager to do this episode since the letter from the chairman came out. But yeah, we're going to cover the letter from the chairman. We're going to talk about what a 1.0 release of Star Citizen might look like. Take a look at a few sources for that. And then we're also going to get caught up on the Roadmap Roundups. Obviously, we still don't have a progress tracker update, but we're just going to go through the Roadmap Roundups kind of rapid fire just to get caught up on those. And I wanted to catch up on those because it's relevant because of what is said in the letter from the chairman. So, today's show is brought to you like the letter C and the number 1.
I love that. That's so good.
Yeah. Alrighty. So before we get started, as we are wont to do, Nazaris, what have you been up to, buddy?
Lots of streaming. I've actually been doing decently at keeping to my schedule. So it's Tuesday, Wednesday. I do a different stream. So I am on a different person's stream on Thursday nights.
Who do you stream
And
with
then I
on
also
Thursday?
Ender Shadow Walker. We're going through
Oh, okay.
the Ghost Recon Wildlands game, and then we're going to be doing a lore watch through for Future Soldier, and then we'll be breaking into Breakpoint. No pun intended.
Very cool.
So he's actually done Wildlands several times, like many times. This is my first playthrough of Wildlands, and so we'll both be going into. We actually have someone else who might join us in a couple weeks, and so all three of us will go into Breakpoint completely fresh and new. So that sounds very cool. And then I also stream on Friday and Saturday, not Saturday, Friday and Sunday. So my 2 days off are Mondays and Saturdays. Saturdays because every other week I run a tabletop RPG, not a D&D campaign, but a GURPS campaign.
GURPS, is that an acronym for?
Yes, generic universal role play system. There we go.
Oh,
It is
okay,
basically a game engine for TTRPGs.
cool. Oh,
Literally every rule that is mentioned anywhere is take it or leave it. So you could just like, we're going to be playing with only a single combat decision. You just do or don't combat. And you can do that.
Is it digital? Like
You can play
you-
digital. You can play, it is books. You can buy books. The books are very expensive. And there's like
like-
50 of them.
but do you like play digitally, like over the
Yeah.
over the internet with? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I play
have,
with like 3 different time zones of people.
Yep, same. I am in a Blade Runner campaign with another person who's in the mountain, who's in MST. We have one person from Pacific, and then two people from, or one from Central, and then one from Eastern.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah, so it makes things interesting.
For sure.
GURPS has been around since the late 70s. Oh, I had no idea. I'm new to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, you can find how to D&D all over YouTube. When you look up how to GURPS, there's like 3 people, and they're all those. I mean, they're very knowledgeable. One of them was actually one of the guys who actually helped write it, but his stuff is very, very dry to watch. Very dry. And then there's a couple other people that just like aren't really. The production quality is not exactly high. Like, they do a good job, but their production quality is not exactly high, and they're very echoey sounding. And audio is one of the things that I just get really upset about. Let's see. And then on Mondays, I do org events with the Nova Forge org, Nova Forge Industries. So that's, and then normally we do podcast. So that's what I do on my 2 days off. So
Yeah, I
very
was,
busy.
Let's see. What was going on Monday that we couldn't do it yesterday?
24-hour shift.
No,
shift?
yesterday I had a
12-hour
work thing. It was last week that I had a 24-hour shift on Monday, and I couldn't do it. But this week I had a work dinner last night, so I couldn't do it then.
shift. Work dinner.
Yep.
I know it's work related. That's all I knew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Normally I don't work Mondays, but it just my schedule is all jacked up right now until we start the new shift bid in like a week and a half, 2 weeks or something like that. So it's a lot of randomness, but yeah. I work one 24-hour shift and one 12-hour shift a week, Shimpasta, and I get to sleep at work if we're not on a call. So it's like being at a fire station.
I imagine the idea is you're basically you're on a shift, but it is like you're available for the 24 hours, not that
Exactly.
you are like doing a task for 24 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. Not working the entire 24 hours. And I mean, sometimes we get really busy and you work a lot of it, but you can call out fatigue and say, nope, no more calls. I need to get some rest for a bit. But yeah, like I worked most of a 24-hour shift, what we call reverse, from Friday night into Saturday evening. And we didn't run a single call. Like, I had chores to do
wow.
and some training and education stuff to do, but I think I probably spent like 3 or 4 hours working on my Give Them Hope stuff on the clock.
Nice.
Yeah. It
Nice.
sometimes works out that way, and other times you'll be running calls for 18, 20 hours and you'll get off and you'll just be absolutely dead to the world. But
I wish my work did more like that. But if I'm not, so technically, what I was hired for is fulfilling online orders at a department store. But because we're a team store, if I'm not doing that, I'm doing a 50 million other things. If they see me standing around, they'll tell me to go do something else. So the downtime I would have is taken up by esoteric tasks.
mm-hmm.
Like organizing back rooms that people destroy literally the same day. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, there's always more productive stuff that could be done, but it's like, that they understand that basically the unwritten rule is most of the time during business hours, if you're on duty and you're not on a call, you're supposed to be doing work related stuff, whether it's training and education, whether it's other outside jobs, ordering supplies, you know, you know, anything work related. But on the weekends, they're pretty lax, and after 5 p.m. they're like, oh yeah, just relax, watch TV. And some people take more liberties with it than others, but because it was Saturday, I came on at 9 p.m. on Friday and I got off at 6 p.m. on Saturday. On Saturday, I got all the chore stuff done, and when I came into work Friday night, and basically I spent all day relaxing on the clock Saturday, and I got to sleep through the night, and it was great. Got paid, was on overtime. Sometimes it works out that way. Sometimes you'll be running calls all night long, and you'll be dead to the world the next day, and you'll have to take care of a toddler, and that's always great. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm trying to make an exit, into doing education stuff full time, but it's hard to break into, and there's limited opportunities for it. But yeah, so that's that's my work hours. But yeah, I've been catching up on the Lore Equals gameplay stuff for the Galactopedia update. I went over the Lore Makers community questions. If you didn't check those out, you can catch up on those on my YouTube. And then I've also been working a lot on Give Them Hope, which is my game dev project that I'm undertaking. And right now I'm just doing all the world building and concepting of the game mechanics, in written form. Going through all the lore and how that all ties into the gameplay mechanics, and looking at different inspirations to try and figure out how I want the game to work and play. And then I've also I have an artist who's working on the concept art for me, and we're working on the concept art for your hero ship, the AMS Nassau. And then I started taking. I found gamedev.tv, and so I'm going through their lessons on how to learn to develop in Unity. So I'm slowly working through that on my limited free time, and it's a fun little side project, fun little thing to do.
So where'd the name of the main ship come from?
So the Nassau in real life is a now decommissioned assault ship, marine, a marine carrier essentially.
Why is my name in so many things?
Yeah, Nassau, not Nazeris, Nassau. But it's named after.
Yeah, but my name shortens to Naz, and then Naz is just in so many places.
But it's
like True Naz, it just shows up in places. It's weird.
But Nassau is the port in the Bahamas that was the site of the first Marine landing during the first U.S. Marine landing in the War of Independence. Back in 1770 something. I forget what year that was. But then there's also a in the lore that I'm creating, there was a space station, a spaceport called Nassau. That was the site of a marine boarding operation, a famous marine boarding operation, and so that's why the ship is named after it. In that Northern Trooper, I have been watching videos on Godot.
Godot.
Yeah,
I don't know why there's a T there. It's Godot. I know
Godot,
there's a T.
Like Gal Gadot,
it's
the actress.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I've been taking a look at it. The only reason I'm learning with Unity is because there's lots of tutorials.
Yes, there is.
And it's the entire tutorial library from GameDev.tv is like $30-something. It's super cheap.
Nice.
Yeah, and the other thing is several of the games.
Just making Fortnite.
Yeah, several of the games that I'm using for inspiration in terms of gameplay mechanics were developed in Unity. So if you've played Battlestar Galactica Deadlock or the predecessor to that, Starhammer: The Vanguard Prophecy, that's the kind of space combat I want, built in Unity. If you've played XCOM, which is has the turn-based ground style combat, except for I want larger scale, built in Unity. XCOM's giant customizable base ship thing that you have, that's in Unity. And so I'm like, okay, if Unity can do these things, then it's an engine that I can work with. Unity's free. Yeah, Unity is.
No, Unity's not free.
Well, it's like I can download and play with it free.
Yes.
Like if I publish a game
Publishing
on Unity,
is the thing.
and I'm only doing this
all
because
engines that are worth their salt are free.
yeah.
You can download Unreal, Unity, Engine,
Mm-hmm.
Fortnite engine. They're all free. Roblox, Minecraft, they're all free. Well, I guess
Yeah.
Minecraft's not free. It's when you go to publish, then
Yep.
it stops being free.
Yeah,
And I would argue that,
no...
from my experience, Unity and Unreal had the same versatility. I would even say that Unreal has slightly more versatility, only because Unity is pulling completely out of the cinematic environment. They are closing down all of their movie assets and selling them off.
Yep.
And Unreal Engine literally built the Mandalorian. So
Yeah. I'm not trying to make and publish the game. I'm trying to make a concept in order to show it off. Like, this is what I think would be cool. Here's this, here's all the written stuff to go with it. And then hand it off to an indie studio and be like, hey, let's make this game. You have the expertise. I do not, but this is sort of I just want to make a concept to shoot,
Unity
sizzle
is
reel.
really good for prototyping.
Yep, exactly. Prototyping. Yep. Especially because all the things that I want to do are, oh, okay, how did this game do it? I can look it up and basically look at it and study it, like, oh, okay, I can make that work. Because that's, and if you haven't played Battlestar Galactica Deadlock and you like Battlestar, go buy it, go play the game. But the predecessor, the game that was built on, Starhammer: The Vanguard Prophecy, is a great game. The writing isn't amazing, but it's a great game, and the space combat, is turn-based and fun, but it's challenging because it's not just a flat plane. You go up and down, and there's that makes a difference, and it's all about positioning and ship movement and arcs of fire, and I want more to it than that, but that's the basis of the combat is like that. But yeah, that's it. That's a tangent, but it's just been a lot of fun to work on the lore stuff and build the universe. I've got the timeline going, and that's nearly done, or at least basically the foundation of the timeline. I'll add in more events as I come up with them, but getting us from 1961 to the 2450s in this universe, and everything, the big milestones within that. And then, I'm working on the alien races, everything to do with humanity, the prologue, the major sort of groups, like the Alliance Marines, Army, Navy, the government itself, all that sort of stuff. And the fun part for me is I have taken. Okay, never mind. For the names of the alien species, I've basically taken things that my son says that I don't know what he's saying.
Nice.
And I've alienized them in order to create the name for a species. And now he says it like I say it, and it's really funny to hear him try and mimic out my me doing deep gravelly voice, because he can't say helicopter, but he's got a bunch of helicopter toys because I fly on helicopters all the dang time. So he says Ochaka. And so I named our alien antagonist species the Ochaka. But when I say it back to him, I say it how I think they would say it. And it's Ochaka. And that's so it's OHTCHAKA. And there's like a hyphen in there.
Very Star Warsy.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's kind of what I was going for. I wanted the voice of the Tandorian, right? The guy who owned Anakin Skywalker and his mom. I wanted that, but deeper and more gravelly. But the species is insectoid, but so not like him. They're more not. They don't look like a fat little old man with liver failure. They're more formidable looking, and so the humanity's sort of main ally. So he he was sick a couple weeks ago, and I had him all tucked in on the couch with his blanket, and his his Pedialyte and watching a movie. I was like, "Are you all nice and cozy?" And he's like, cozy, cozy." And so now when he watches a show, a lot of times he wants to have a blanket, and I'll like tuck him in, and he'll go cozy, cozy. And so I changed that to Unkazi. And that's the name of
Okay.
these big, almost like upright rhinoceros slash gorilla herd mammals that are humanity's main allies. And they have these really deep guttural voices, but they speak very slowly because they don't do anything fast. Yeah.
That's very interesting. The humanity's main ally
Ally.
is a lumbering herd animal.
Yep. Well, I mean, they're evolved, but yeah.
That tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, little side tangent, but let's get into tonight's episode. I'm going to go ahead and change the screen. I don't need this up anymore. So first things first, we're going to start off with the letter from the chairman. And basically, we'll probably go through like section by section, kind of like how we do the monthly reports, and we'll read through
The
that
letter
and we'll
C?
provide, and we'll provide some commentary. But this letter from the chairman isn't nearly as thick as some of the previous ones, but it's got some juicy tidbits that are really important to talk about. So I'm gonna go ahead and change screens. Un minuto. Aether Drift, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's the world building has been fun. I've had these ideas bouncing around in my head for years now, and it's been fun to flesh them out and do the writing. And yeah, Operation Naz reads the long one. Engage.
I'm not making a joke. I'm not making a joke. This is me not making a joke.
Mm-hmm. First and foremost,
Gosh,
I love this image. This is a really cool image.
I like all the art on this page. It's all really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hope they use the styling more.
I can't tell which station that is. Do you know which Leo station that is? Are we above?
Everest?
Is this above Hurston, I think?
I
think so.
It's Everest.
I think so too. It looks familiar, and that's where I start off most often.
Because, like, it's definitely not Orson. It's definitely not Gas Giant.
Yep.
It doesn't look like I see terrain on it. It's not Arcorp.
Yeah.
And it doesn't strike me as Microtech either. I think those collab patterns are Hurston, and I think that like Bajini, I'm pretty sure I would recognize.
Yeah.
Not Bajini, that's Arcorp. Tressler, I'm pretty sure I'd recognize. I'm pretty sure that's Hurston.
Agreed. So this letter from the chairman came out about 2 weeks ago, and it came out the week after the first server meshing tests that were over the weekend. And since then, we've had a second round of server meshing tests, and that's something that we'll talk about as we get through this, because he does mention some very pertinent things. Oh, Nazar's cam.
We also in the pre-show we also talked about. Thank you. 2 pound 24, 2 pound 42, 2 pound 42.
10,
his video
10 pound
on
42.
the configuration. Yeah. 10 pound 42, same difference.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. His video of how they probably might have maybe configured the servers during the second server meshing test.
He did a good job.
So we did talk a bit about that.
I'm gonna.
I think it was interesting that they really didn't know where the servers were. They're just kind of like, this is probably where they were.
Mm-hmm.
But also that they did 2 different rounds of 800 player tests, and they both failed. It's interesting. And also that those tests had 6 servers each. That's wild.
Yeah. I dropped the link to that video in the chat. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend going and checking it out. He did a really good job in showing, hey, okay, we just crossed the server boundary and it's this identity, and now we're over here, and we cross the server boundary again. Here's the identity, It was really good.
Yep.
So
I mean, it does have an
all-
orange tinge on it if you look right at the Twilight Zone.
I think I'm pretty sure that's Hurston, but could be wrong.
Also, this is highly edited.
Mhm.
So
So starting
photoshopped.
off
Just
with the, it starts off with a quote from Marcus Aurelius. So going for the grandiose, and I'll read this first section. Basically, we just break it up. You know, you can take this second section here, and we'll just take turns. So 2023 marked the beginning of a transformative chapter for Cloud Imperium and both of our games. With Alpha 318, our first release of 323. 2023, the team delivered persistent entity streaming, the foundational tech that is necessary for server meshing. As we mentioned in the last letter, PES is not only in the last letter, like the last two letters, and then also in the there's a big old write up about it was in the Q&A, and then there was another thing for server meshing talking about PEO, how big PES was and what they did and why they did it, as well as the post-mortem. So they're reiterating all that right here. PS is the hardest part of the work needed for server meshing. And that's why, as much as I love 10 pound 42, when he says at the end, he's like, I think that they're going to do this very limited, one server for Stanton, one server for Pyro, and release that with 4.0 because they don't want 3.18 again. I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's correct at all, because that's not the minimum viable product that they showed in the previous letter that they talked about. And the reason that's the minimum viable product is because you have both types of transitions. And if you remember from the server meshing ISE that we only got one episode of at the beginning of last year, they specifically said they're handling the transitions between star systems differently than they handle the transitions between servers within a star system. And that's why it's the minimum viable product, because it has to test both types of transitions in a live environment. And that's why we did an initial test of that first type going from Stanton to Pyro, and now we did a second test testing transitions across servers in Stanton.
Yeah, I also think
Makes
we'll be
sense?
running many more, maybe 3 or 4 more rounds of testing with server meshing.
Oh, easily. Yeah. I expect 2 to 3, maybe 4 months before this goes to Evo. These types of tests.
I think Evo's I think a lot of the stuff they need to test for 4.0 is pretty much done and doesn't need a lot of Evo testing.
Yeah, like you're talking about the Pyro and gameplay mechanic stuff, like we talked about. Yeah. People are making a big deal about the stability of these tests, and I'm like, it's the tech preview channel. It's the first time we've tested this. They're getting the information to continue to develop it. They're not going to release it. People are thinking that, they're testing now, so it's getting bumped up to 323. It's like, no, they said specifically in the testing chat that this is going to be a long series of tests, because they're finding all the things that break and all the things that hiccup, and the things that slow it down, and they're going to work on those in order to get it as good as it can be prior to a live release. And so the performance that we saw right now and the issues that we saw right now are not final at all, not even close. It's on a 322 build, which doesn't include the mission refactor. That's why missions didn't work, because they're not testing that. That hasn't been incorporated. They're going to run server meshing tests on 323 after it goes live.
Wait, they're testing server meshing in live?
No. When 323 goes live, because with the tech preview channel,
right?
Tech preview is you are testing tech on the patch that is live. A version.
Okay, I see. So
they're testing server meshing on 320 on a 322.1 build. When 323 goes live, we'll be testing server meshing in tech preview on 323 builds.
That makes sense. I did cover that pre 3.22 because that was the replication layer stuff and how it was going to collapse into whatever is the current. So they'll keep adding the features that are alive into the tech channel, and then they'll collapse the tech channel back into live.
Yeah. So sorry, bit of a tangent, but that's an important tangent. That's why we wanted to cover this stuff, because that's it brings us around full circle. PES is the hardest part of the work needed for server meshing. When 3.18 launched, PES launched with 8 of the 12 required services for dynamic server meshing. 8 of the new services. So that included the replication layer. There's services that are getting refactored, but they're not new. Like the mission service is getting refactored. There's the party system is going to get refactored. All those things will be refactored for server meshing, but they aren't new services. They're just getting updated. Whereas there's 8 new services in PES, 8 entirely new services that had to work together. So that's an exponential. That's not, 8 different things that can go wrong. That's exponential of 8 things that go wrong as all these things interact with each other. And so that makes it that much harder to find the issues. Whereas with server meshing, static server meshing, all we're doing is separating the replication layer, which is something that we had in PES. It's not new tech. It's just being moved off the server. Adding in the functionality of crash recovery. It's not a service really. And then we're just adding in the ability for server meshing. We're not getting those additional services until we get to dynamic server meshing. That's why static isn't really that huge of a leap. It's just we're taking this next step to get data. So the launch of Alpha 3.18 was far more challenging than we anticipated. And we discovered some issues with our backend database. Naz and I talked about this, the ability for it to scale and their vendor that they were using. That only were visible at the scale we see on a live release as opposed to the PTU. Hence why they kicked it out of PTU, because they couldn't get any more data from it at the scale that was in. Even with it being open PTU, they just don't get enough people playing PTU. They couldn't test it at scale, and that was where they ran into issues. Outside of this, we uncovered a lot of little issues that come from a truly persistent universe. While it is amazing to come across a wreck from a player combat a week ago, it is not so fun to try and land at a hangar where the last 3 ships crashed and left debris lying around, blocking your landing pad. We slowly worked through these issues and others, but it was a challenging time both for the development team and the community. These obstacles not only tested our skills and determination, but also demonstrated our resilience as we overcame them. Beyond PES, we welcome the long-awaited implementation of salvage. Yeah, we got hull scraping, and we're getting the we got the sort of first basic version of.
Okay. So maybe you have a similar
whatchamacallit?
opinion to what I have. Vehicle munching.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Structural salvage. Whatever you want to call it. So maybe you have the
Long
same
live vehicle
opinion that
munching.
I do, or similar. That sure we have salvage, but it's kind of like a half step of salvage.
Yep.
Okay.
That's probably
Because
being a
every
little
time I
generous.
post about lack of economy gameplay, everyone's like, "Well, salvage is in now." Not really, though.
Yeah, we're like
it's constantly thrown back at me when I say like I'd rather economy gameplay, and there's a lot of combat in everything. It touches everything.
yeah.
Like even
I
salvage,
think
the majority of the missions you do are combat related.
I think the pendulum swung back a bit too far when they nerfed the money you get from components. I wish we still got paid a little bit better, so it made it worthwhile to EVA and go get the components and things.
Yep.
And I think probably the price of the cargo that you get from them too, like it's more financially viable to just do more missions than it is to find a wreck and salvage the wreck. And people just do that because they enjoy it and it's fun, not because it's a profitable enterprise. Whereas mining is not only fun for the people that enjoy it,
bugged right now.
yeah, but it's a profitable enterprise. So, and not every ship has its components. So, but yeah. Anyway, so it is in, but not completely. Accompanied by relevant missions. Traders reaped the benefits of an overhauled, no pun intended, and physicalized cargo system, which continues to this day, and just loving how all that's coming along. While players across
Okay.
the board enjoyed many new missions spanning both the PvE and PvP scenarios.
I'm trying to figure out what exactly traders benefited from physicalized cargo system.
I guess you could say if people have been looking forward to having that sort of gameplay.
But nothing changed.
No, it didn't. And I think
For trading
it was-
specifically, nothing's changed.
yeah, trading specifically, no. Cargo hauling, we got like
Salvage
halfway
changed
to where we should
because
be. And this next 323 is going to take us the rest of the way, really.
yeah,
'Cause, we got cargo missions and the freight elevators.
and we actually get to load our trading goods into our ship. But there's no trading and hauling didn't get any updates. The last update to trading was the jank system we have to use for the whole sea. That works only half the time.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Danger
I have
Hub,
a
I
lot
get
of
what you're saying about the
animosity, just
weak
because
legs. But that's the
people
thing
keep
is it
yelling at me.
if the only thing
that-
that's valuable to salvage is illegal cargo.
It's not like if you have a 2-man crew, one's doing the reclaimer stuff, one's doing the C2 stuff, it's decent. You're good. It's a good +1 to your money. Like it does pay for the reason to be there and fuel. Like it's fine. But it's definitely not like, especially if you get like quantanium and titanium and things like that, and gold and diamonds. Pretty good. It's pretty good. But then the problem is you have to go somewhere where that stuff is sold, and if you store your ship currently with cargo on it, you get these singularity boxes that don't come off the cargo grid until you claim the ship. Not
Whoops.
fun. Also, you can't offload boxes from the reclaimer onto a cargo ship and then go sell them. For some strange reason, that's not what it lets you. It doesn't let you do it. Or onto the hull sea specifically, I guess.
Yeah.
So we were doing that, and
There
just
still
errored
be
out.
issues.
There be issues, yes.
Our development journey reached a series of significant milestones last year, all of which took center stage at CitizenCon 2953. The magnitude of this event, I wish I could go again this year, but that ain't happening. The magnitude of this event for everyone at CIG cannot be overstated, especially considering it marked our first in-person CitizenCon in over 4 years. We have been powered by all of your excitement since the very beginning of the journey, and we've missed the energy that comes from spending time together, sharing our mutual excitement about what we're building. The show was an incredible affirmation of all our hard work, both on Star Citizen and Squadron 42 in 2023. Kicked off our best Q4 ever in terms of player logins and engagements. Thanks to all of you, and a huge wave in Q4 2023. A huge wave in Q4. 2023 was our best year yet, with record highs in daily active players, monthly active players, unique logins, and hours played for the year. More than 1.1 million of you set foot into the persistent universe in 2023, which is nuts. That's just crazy. The other major milestone in 2023 was welcoming the team at Turbulent fully into the CIG family. Our partners since the end of 2012, Turbulent have been responsible for large parts of our online infrastructure and have greatly contributed to our growth and success. This acquisition allows us to streamline our efforts and formally gives us a significant presence in Montreal, Canada, which is a hotbed of video game talent. We're definitely going to see more hiring going on there in the future. As part of this acquisition, we gained 2 key senior executives. Benoit Bassajour, the Chief Technical Officer of Turbulent, who now becomes the CTO of Cloud Imperium and the head of our core technology group. You already know Benoit from his presentations on our server meshing plans at the last 2 CitizenCons. I got to talk to Benoit for like 45 minutes. Super great dude.
Nice.
Loads of fun talking to him about server meshing and their plans going forward. The second key executive to join our ranks is Mark Baudet.
But
I'm not sure. I don't want to say bidet because that sounds like a potty, but it's Baudet, I think, who is the CEO of Turbulent and becomes our senior vice president, studio operations, in charge of the operations and welfare of the 1,000+ people working on Star Citizen and Squadron 42, spread between our 5 offices in Austin, Texas, Los Angeles, California, Manchester, England, Frankfurt, Germany, and now Montreal, Canada. As I look back on 2023, with a few months now to reflect and appreciate the hard work of the team around me, I can say that our experience at CitizenCon 2953 and the excitement from our community both at the show and in the game, as I logged into Star Citizen in record numbers last year, left me feeling not only proud, but also deeply grateful and reinvigorated for the year ahead. What was this video?
It's spelled the same.
Oh, year in review. Okay. Don't need to watch that. All right.
His name is spelled the same.
Okay. Naz, I'm going to let you kick off for this bit. I know a lot of people got hung up on them using this concept art for the jump point. And
I really hate that they're removing that. I really do. I really like the ring idea.
I think the ring idea is great. They put a lot of work into it. I think it makes sense for the locations that it makes sense for. Like if you have a highly trafficked jump point, it makes sense to have a ring and have the ring be opening the jump point for your ships, and it's more, cost effective that way. You don't have to use your jump point and use your fuel and what have you. It's really cool and cinematic.
I don't really
looking.
care about the justification. I just like the art.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you can make it make sense. Pyro, the one going to Pyro doesn't have one, but this one, going to
the one
Terra or what have you.
Stanton and Terra absolutely would have one.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they still will end up going with it and bringing it back.
Yeah, I think it was either Dave or Weissbaum that said, yeah, we might not, but heck, we might have them anyway. We might decide to go back on what we went back on. So you know what? Just let it happen.
Yeah, having just the glowy bit to me feels anticlimactic after you go through this because it's small. Yeah.
I really like the first jump to Pyro looked perfect. Back to was it 3 years ago?
Oh, in 2019. With the gate?
The Carrick one. The one that you use for the stupid intro, yeah.
Yep.
That was perfect. That was great. And it was all broken on the other end. It looked great. I don't know why they're not doing that anymore. It's saddening. But it's their game, not mine. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. And what's your year shaping up to be? On Squadron 42, that is taking the game from feature complete to content complete, ensuring the game has the necessary polish and feels worthy of being a spiritual successor to Wing Commander. To this end, the team is hard at work, heads down, driving towards the finish line. I'm incredibly excited about how the game is shaping up, and we will have more to share with you at this year's CitizenCon, which will be held in Manchester, England. On the Star Citizen front, the teams are preparing to deliver server meshing and expanding the universe of Star Citizen to multiple star systems. One of the key milestones of human achievement in the lore of Star Citizen is First Jump Day. With legendary human astrophysicist and pilot Nick Croshaw navigated the first jump point on 10th of April 2271, and became the first human to visit a planetary system beyond Sol. Eventually, that system was named Croshaw in his honor. His journey was described as the jump that changed the course of humanity, and led to the starfaring future we depict in Star Citizen and Squadron 42. You might wonder, why am I telling you this story? Well, a little ahead of the historic date on April 10th, we had our own First Jump Day celebration on Star Citizen's Tech Preview channel this weekend. That was
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Okay, 2 weeks weekend ago.
And they really should change the First Jump Day.
So that was
to that.
2 weeks. That was the 9th. I think it was the 9th, right?
I think so.
Okay. So, as a community, as a force for good, we're banding together and changing first jump day to March 9th, 2271. So just keep that in mind. We'll will it into existence, as we've done many other things. For our test of our progress on server meshing and the replication layer technology, we opened our first functional jump gate and allowed players to test traveling between our two systems for the first time in our history. Players were able to travel between Stanton and Pyro via wormhole, with each system streaming in and out seamlessly. For those of you interested, our versus Necroshaw honor goes to an Evocati member called Mr. Trash, who we believe was the first in the community to successfully jump, which means there was probably a lot of unsuccessful jumps. During the test, it was worth highlighting that we also achieved 350 concurrent players in a single shard, e.g., a replication layer with 2 connected servers, setting a new record for concurrent players in a single instance of Star System, which was then heavily blown out of the water by the next test with nearly 800 people.
Before you continue,
after-
I think this is important point of clarification too, is with static server meshing, we're not going to have when a game server, a shard spins up, a new shard spins up, it will spin up with one replication layer and however many servers they decide to go with for this initial configuration. And that will be what it stays until that shard turns off, shuts down, if that makes sense. That's why it's called static, because there's only one replication layer that doesn't change. That's static. And say they do the 2 servers in Stanton, 2 servers in Pyro, that's static. They won't be adding more servers to it or anything like that. It will be that configuration will be that shard, and it won't change until that shard goes down. Now, what they can do, and that's why crash recovery is so important, is if one of those 4 servers is starting to have issues, they can turn it off. They can crash it and spin up another one, and the shard will keep on going. Because obviously a server can get bogged down over time, and gets it essentially gets starts to show its age the longer it's been running. And so the server meshing will help a lot with that, but they can, they can literally just, spin up a new server and swap it out in order, and you'll just have that hiccup like a server disconnect, like they showed off with the crash recovery test with the replication layer separation. And that's what you'll see. And then, so, server number 2 for Stanton, will go down for 30 seconds to a minute, and then a replacement server will pop back up after being populated by the replication layer with all the information that it needs. But I think that's an important thing because people don't seem to understand the whole shard aspect of what that entails and what static server meshing really means. And because as great as these tests have been, I think it's thrown some confusion out there as people thinking, oh, okay, well, sometimes it'll be 8 servers, and sometimes it'll be 4, and sometimes it'll be 6, whatever. And the player count will change dynamically. No, when 4.0 goes live, every single time a shard goes up, it will be in the set static configuration.
Player counts will be as dynamic as they are currently.
Yeah, it can fluctuate a little bit, but right now, it's 100 and some and change, whatever, and so maybe it'll be 400, and sometimes it'll go up and down a little bit, but the number of servers won't change, and the single replication layer won't change. What changes with dynamic server meshing is where we can not only scale up more servers dynamically, but we can also, once we reach that level where the replication layer is getting taxed, they can subdivide that level, that responsibility, and spin up what's called another replication layer. An individual replication layer is called a replicant. And that's what dynamic is. It's not just more servers, it's more replication layers to handle that load as well. Sorry, please continue.
All right. After many hard years of work towards a goal many thought was impossible, and many have said as much, we are on the cusp of delivering one of the final pieces of technology that will enable a connected, shared universe that thousands of players can experience together at the same time. I invited Benoit, who oversaw this historic test, our new CTO, to share a few thoughts about the monumental milestone he helped bring to fruition. You want me to go ahead and read that as well?
Uh,
Yeah, where am I stopping? Because I started at the
it
headline. The
doesn't
next
break up
headline is the.
evenly.
Nope.
I'll do this next one. And it's so on the cusp of delivering one of the final pieces of technology. And this is important because they talked about this back in 2018
Yep.
and how this is one of the final, this is, basically the final piece of, of technology. Now, obviously there are things like Vulkan and other things, but those aren't necessary for, they're not as foundational as this. Those are really nice to haves and it's going to make a big difference. But it's not the bedrock that the game is built on, especially when we're talking about this part, the connecting lots and lots of players, thousands of players. Benoit says, as the new CTO at Cloud Imperium, I'm thrilled to join the CIG family and lead our technology group. We're dedicated to pushing boundaries, and I'm honored to represent and care for this team of pioneers and trailblazers. One of my first initiatives as CTO is establishing the tech preview channel, and and I talked about this at length when we talked about the when we went over the postmortem for 318, because that's basically when all this started out. They posted about it beforehand. They talked about it in the postmortem, and it's a great idea, and it's been executed pretty well. Obviously, things haven't come through as quickly as we like, but it's been working really well now in order for them to be able to test and iterate on technology, not just testing features like they do in Avocati. This is for testing technology. It's a space where developers can fearlessly test large technology changes with players way before they go live, fostering the spirit of open development with our community. In 2024, our server meshing journey is hitting its stride after years of dedication. We're closing in on the original version we set out to achieve. Now, obviously, there have been some delays because we all know that iCache didn't work out, and that required about 18 months worth of rework in order to get us to the PES and the replication layer and the entity graph that we have now. And then on top of that, COVID really slowed that down. So, that's part of the reason we're just now getting to server meshing here in 2024 versus 2022 is because we had, unforeseen delays with, the COVID pandemic and with the failure of iCache, that they couldn't have predicted. Yeah, I hope we have more replicans and less replicants. But the journey started long ago with the introduction of streaming capabilities to Star Engine, like client-side object container streaming, followed by server-side object container streaming, and progressing to PES to maintain the entire game world. Every step has been building toward our goal to support MMO-level player populations in a high-fidelity game environment of large magnitude. And that's the thing, is most people don't realize that there has been incremental steps for 6-7 years now where they've been working on different pieces of technology that they had to get into the game and get functioning and get tested and prove out to move on to the next piece of technology. And it hasn't just been, oh, iCache came out of nowhere and then it was supposed to be server meshing. And no, without, you had to have the object container streaming, both client and server side first, along with a bunch of other things before you could move on to these next things. And that's what the development was doing back in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. All this is the bedrock tech that was built in order for server meshing and PES to work. Yeah, they said we were crazy.
And also with a very small team comparatively.
Oh yeah, yeah, much smaller. Yeah,
That's why it's taken so long, is they were trying to make industry-changing technology with indie studio levels of devs.
yeah. Especially when
Like
you're
they're
talking
trying to
about
make,
the numbers of engineers. Yeah,
yeah, they're trying to make like Unreal Engine level of technology or NVIDIA level of technology engineering at the studio size of Media Molecule, which is the people who made Little Big Planet. It's just they've moved mountains. Okay, they've done some work.
yeah, and it that's why it took so much time to get the momentum going. Is because you start off with a small number of people pushing this to get momentum going and getting it, getting it done. And now we have more and more people, and they're really hitting their stride, and it's taking its time, but it's we're finally there. We're finally getting there. We are gearing up to release the replication layer in 3.23. This is a big deal. It's the foundation we build the mesh on. As a player, you should perceive this specifically when dealing with server crashes, as those will no longer cause, pardon me, immediate disconnection, but gracefully recover, allowing you to continue to play. For developers, this milestone marks the true separation between the simulation and the replication. A humongous achievement for the game and for Star Engine. So we've had the replication layer. That was part of the PES, one of the 8 new services that launched with PES, but it's been running on the server. And now we're separating replication from simulation. So the replication layer is going to be run on essentially a different server. But because they're all, the dedicated game server that's doing the simulation and the replication layer and the entity graph are all essentially in the same server stack over at Amazon, the communication between the three and all the other microservices, what have you, that feed information into them is lossless. That's why what they're doing is so important, because games don't really do this. Everything just runs on the server for most games because they don't need this level of technology to make what they're doing work, because what they're doing isn't all that ambitious. But in order to do what Star Citizen's trying to do, they have to have all these microservices running in parallel, but on different servers, because otherwise the servers will just get bogged down. They can't process all that information, all these commands. But if another server is doing it and then communicating the result back to the simulation, back to the replication, that's how it's able to run efficiently and effectively. And not only that, that's how it's able to scale. That's why other games can't scale like Star Citizen is trying to do, because you can't, if everything's running on one server, you just make more and more servers, but each one is its own server still. They're not generally part of an overall large shard. Other games have done things that are similar, but not in the way that Star Citizen's doing it, and not at the scale that CIG is doing
And that's something that a lot of people, not a lot of people take note of, but a lot of people don't understand and wouldn't understand unless they do things like watch GDC talks. Is every single implementation that you've ever seen of any kind of server tech, doesn't matter if it's Minecraft, every Steam game, every single implementation of any kind of networking is bespoke in some way. So if you ever see a Reddit post or a Spectrum post of server meshings in World of Warcraft on what is it called? What was the thing? Ultima Online. Yes, they have a form where 2 servers can communicate to each other and players can transition from one server to the other. Those 2 games don't have the same server meshing or server transition technology, nor do any of those have any relation to, nor the magnitude of Star Citizen's implementation of server
the
meshing
level of
or server
simulation that
transition.
those servers are trying to do is infinitely less complicated than what CIG is doing with a
AKA,
64-bit precision massive world. Yeah, it is not comparable at all. Yeah. So, but hey, we're not hitting pause there. We're charging full steam ahead towards launching our first multi-server mesh in 4.0. For this, multiple servers work together to simulate parts of the universe. As a player, this will enable you to visit Pyro through the jump gate, where the jump tunnels transition seamlessly between game servers. Game shards will also host more players, so you should encounter more friends or foes along the way. This will mark a new beginning for our game architecture. Now, it's interesting because they don't specify. They don't say, what the configuration will be because they don't know, but they just say multiple servers will work together to simulate parts of the universe and
I
multi-server
think that's
mesh.
exactly what they're trying to figure out with the server meshing test is what is the optimum? What are we going to go with? Can we exist with more servers per shard?
Yeah, and he
Because
he
I
says,
guarantee they want the highest player concurrency in a single shard.
yeah, the
That is
highest
reasonable.
functional. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he talks about the being able to jump to Pyro through the jump gate, which is important because that's the player facing aspect of it.
I wish
Whereas
he would
the
use jump
transit,
point since we don't get gates.
exactly right.
It's
There's
a
no
jump
gate
point, no
there.
gate.
Yeah.
But he's a server dev. I will allow it because he's a server dev, not an artist, not a lore person. I will allow it.
But that's player facing. Whereas if they use two servers to simulate Stanton, there won't be anything player facing. You won't see yourself transitioning from one server to another within Stanton. And so they don't specifically mention that because it's not player facing. The goal is that you don't notice the difference. Kind of like with 323 and 318 or 318 and PES. The goal of PES is for you to not notice the difference in the PES being there, that being able to replicate what we had before using all new technology. That was the goal. Now, obviously, it's taken a while to get there, but we're there. The 3.8, the PS is working now. We don't have the issues that we did when it first came out. But that's been the goal all along, is to be able to have it be seamless, to not have players notice that you're transitioning from server to server. This will mark a new beginning for our game architecture. In the coming weeks and months, get ready for more technical preview. Weeks and months. Get ready for more technical preview tests with various mesh configurations, multiple game servers per solar system, and seamless transitions without gates. That's what we're talking about here. Transition from server to server within Stanton. We're talking about layouts where servers are dedicated to entire planets and moons. Others focus solely on landing zones or other key locations, with plenty of higher player count experiments. So we are already testing at 800 players. I guarantee you, we probably will go higher than that, because they're going to take this is just the first round that we just had this last weekend. They're going to make lots of
they haven't-
optimizations and fixes and changes.
I guarantee the next one's going to include that landing zone one.
Yeah,
Because there was no landing zone bespoke,
Even if
at least according to
even if
what
they only
could
do
find
one,
out.
that's all they need to do is have Hurston be its own server, because they want to be able to test. Because this is not only about seeing how efficiently a server will run, having an authority over a certain region, but also testing these transitions, because it's you have a lot more people coming and going out of Loreville, into the whatever that server entity zone would be around it, than you do just crossing space.
I wonder what a target like setup would do. So you have each landing zone be a server, and you have the planet be another server, and then you have the space around it be another server, whether you make the moons their own server or not, whatever. And then you have general space be another server, and do this like target thing.
Yeah, that could be interesting if they did every landing zone as a server, and then every planet or every landing zone, all four landing zones are a server, all four planets are a server, and then make like all the moons another server, and then have all the interconnecting space another server, because they did that. If you watch or something similar to that, minus the landing
Most
zone.
of the time, there was the interconnecting space is a single server most of the time.
Yep.
Because it doesn't have to do a whole lot except for simulating players.
Yeah, simulating players, and it'll be interesting to see like if they had anything turned off in terms of the whatchamacallit, the zones, probability volumes. you know, we're you know, were
Or
they
do they
making
even
it so
work yet?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They have to solve the planetary rotational issue as well. How?
Well,
Which
the planet's
issue?
not rotating? Or are you talking about orbiting?
Both are fixed because even static server meshing can be moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I
It
thought
is its authority is static, but its position can be yes, rotating
Mhm.
and orbiting planes. Well, they're working on it, and basically and they've said like they can do it. It's just it does it add to gameplay and does it make sense in gameplay. They could, and the biggest problem why we don't is the star map. So they'll have to reconvene at some later time. But if they were going to do it, I would expect it around the time they finish. I would expect a yes or no final answer at around the time they finish Planet Tech V5
Yeah. I
because
think
it's
it'd
going to
be
come up again as a
interesting.
question.
You know, it'll make hauling very interesting. Yeah,
Mhm.
especially like, but that's a lot more work for them in terms of balancing, like, you know, what planets, you know, how fast do they orbit, you know, yeah. Um, let's see. I'm genuinely proud to be part of this team. While we face challenges ahead, I'm filled with relentless optimism, knowing that amazing successes are waiting for us. '07 Benoit Beausejour. And why don't you take the next two, you know, this one and then the following
All the way
two.
down to the next quote.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if only my nose would actually chill out. I don't know why, but my allergies decided to hit me like a truck.
You don't need to
As we
breathe.
set our... Yeah, no, that's not a thing. Don't worry, I'm not. As we set our sights on the year ahead, the team remains focused and committed to ushering the community into uncharted territories with the release of Pyro and Star Citizen Alpha 4.0. I'd like to reread that. Pyro and Star Citizen 4.0. They're not coming before. Stop saying it. I cannot stress how much this is an inflection point, as it will allow many more players to play together, but also to seamlessly travel to different star systems. All of this points towards 2024 being our biggest and best year yet in the universe of Star Citizen. But Star Citizen 4.0 is not our final destination. And with that, I have more exciting news to share. See, I got way too excited at that sentence. As we revealed at CitizenCon with Squadron 42 achieving its feature complete milestone, we are now able to bring features developed for Squadron 42 to the persistent universe at an accelerated rate. As part of this, towards the end of the year, we decided to reorganize the Star Citizen and Squadron 42 teams to be more integrated to facilitate bringing several years worth of feature work and polish to Star Citizen or to Star Citizen. And finally, set our sails out for Star Citizen's own finish line. Dun dun dun.
And
While we
that's
recognize that, go ahead.
this sentence right here is a good summary of what Naz and I have been saying for years. Is those like the devs that are being brought back, that have been brought back into the fold on Star Citizen, have largely been working on Star Citizen and Squadron 42 at the same time because they've been working on features for both. And instead of having to work on those features for a live environment, which slows them down, they've been working on them in isolation. And now they're able to bring them back into the dev cycle, you know, into the dev branches and integrate them into the networked environment. And we're getting a whole big content rush because these features have already been developed and are largely, they work with the engine. They just haven't been working in a networked environment. And so that's why it's going to feel like we're getting so like everybody's like, oh, they're come back over, so development's going to speed up. And it's like, well, in this first year, development isn't going to speed up because they're basically just catching Star Citizen up with Squadron 42 with features that have already been developed. It's not
I feel like
speeding up development.
it's
It's, you know,
I think people the portion of the community that follows in word, not in like reading, are going to think that this next year is going to be super fast. and then we're gonna hit a wall come 2023 that we're gonna start developing a lot of stuff again. Because 3.23, there's not a lot of new things in it. There's a lot of stuff that they did over the past 2 years coming in.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
gonna
not
look like a
stuff that has
lot of
been
development all at once.
Yeah, it hasn't been recently developed. It's stuff that has been worked on for years. And
Yeah.
it's not, it's just like other features that have been getting worked on for Star Citizen. We don't see them, they've only been working on it for 6 months. No, they've been working on this for years. And now it's finally at a release state. Same thing now with this stuff. It was at a release state in Squadron, or a feature complete state. And now they're moving into the dev branch. So now will development after all of the PU related features from Squadron get integrated, will development on Star Citizen after that be faster than before? Yes. After that, they will be working on features faster. That's part of why, as we get to this own finish line, why this is a big deal. Because this next year is we're trying to get, Squadron 42 is up here. We're trying to bring Star Citizen up here in terms of feature parity, so that way if you played either game, you'd be like, everything's familiar. The star map's the same, the HUD is the same, EVA is the same. They're trying to get them to feature parity, and then Squadron won't change. They might add some more things to it for episode 2, but not a whole lot. And Star Citizen development will go this way because they're going to continue to develop features and mechanics for Star Citizen that aren't needed for Squadron. There'll be a handful of things that will get brought back over, but very little.
I imagine Squadron 42 Episode 1 will have a update when Squadron 42 Episode 2 comes out.
Yep.
To bring all the features that have been developed for that one or for Star Citizen and brought into Episode 2 retroactively added to the old one.
EVA
but
tier
like
3,
stuff like crafting, base building. I mean, no, I don't know crafting, but base building, farming, bounty hunting, not needed for a squadron. So those things just haven't been worked on. So those are like base building interiors and distribution centers and cargo hauling. Those are the things that are now going to start ramping up and be brought into this feature complete state and actual salvage. And because we're waiting on Maelstrom for that, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff moving right now that we don't see because the progress tracker is waiting on the final say for 1.0. A lot of stuff. Like there's a lot of dev work being done right now, and we just can't see it because we're kind of with the scheduling time got inflated this year because of hundreds of new devs moving back from Squadron and them deciding we're going to work on our 1.0 roadmap. So it got way inflated, so we don't really know a lot of the stuff that we normally know.
And I think it's important to remind everybody, is people think that is slowing down development right now, is people are like, oh, well, they don't have a schedule, so they don't know what to work on. No. All the things that they showed off at CitizenCon is what they're going to be working on over the next year. They have plenty of work to do. They know what they're working on.
They have internal schedules.
Yeah, the roadmap to 1.0.
Just because they're not publishing them doesn't mean they're not working.
Yeah, the roadmap to 1.0 is really, what does it look like past this summer and this fall? After that.
Yeah, past the 12 months, including this last CitizenCon.
Yeah, because it's going to take, 4 full quarter patches at least to get Star Citizen to feature parity with Squadron. And that's a lot of work for all those devs. Now, obviously, the PU teams are continuing to work on stuff because, persistent hangars and building interiors and UGFs, they're still working.
Raider Commander.
Yeah, they've got stuff to work on. They haven't stopped working just because there's a 1.0 roadmap being worked on. But in the next year is when we're going to see that sort of long-term planning and what what those teams are going to be working on after this year. Yep. So please continue. Sorry.
All right. No, that's fine. While we recognize that there is no definitive finish line in an online MMO, which is redundant, massively multiplayer online. There's online massively multiplayer online. Anyway, just noticed that. And that we will always be adding new features and content for many, many years to come. Star Citizen 1.0 is what we would consider the feature and content set to represent commercial release. That's it. Pack it up. We're done. This means that the game is welcoming to new players, stable, and polished
part of the
with
ship.
enough
Part of
game.
the crew, part of the ship.
Oh, nice. Oh, wow.
Oh, we just got
Welcome,
a raid.
everyone.
Hey, a
Welcome.
raid from Renoxus. I apologize, everyone. I am a bad streamer and I don't have the little follow commands. Thank you so much for the raid, Renoxus. Thanks for coming and hanging out, everybody, from Renoxus's stream. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you've been having a fun night. We are going over the letter from the chairman from a couple weeks ago. And then after we get done with this, we're going to talk about what a Star Citizen 1.0 release might look like in terms of tech, features, mechanics, and locations. And then we're going to get caught up on the Roadmap Roundups for Q1 2024. So this is the Pathfinders podcast. If you're new to the show, Nazeris and I, we chart the way through all the nebulous information surrounding the development of Star Citizen, Squadron 42, and but yeah, that's what we're all about. And if you just saw the MooBot in chat, it just let you know that I am always raising money for StackUp.org. I take no monetization for myself. So any and all monetization I get from Twitch and YouTube goes 100% in its entirety to StackUp.org. So if you hang out and watch a commercial, if you decide to sub because you hate commercials, if you want to donate directly to StackUp.org, you can. I have that working. You can hit the donor drive, but yeah, I'm all about StackUp.org and helping veterans and members of the military connect with video games and gaming communities to treat and prevent PTSD, because it works for me. So I hope it works for other people. But yeah, that's the spiel.
And welcome, White Crab. Not part of the raid, but welcome to the Star
White
Citizen
Crab.
community. Hi.
Yeah. Simultaneous raid by White Crab and the Renoxus stream. All right, please continue.
Followed by White Crab, raid by Renoxus.
Yeah, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the support.
Yeah. Welcome. I hope you have fun. All right, now where was it? This means that the game will be welcoming to new players, stable, and a polished with enough gameplay and content to engage players continuously.
Oh, White Crab with the sub. Thanks so much.
Oh, nice.
Like I just said, that sub money will go to StackUp.org when I get a payout. So party markers may never be fixed. Yeah, well, that's one of the systems I have to refactor for server meshing.
And party markers and all party stuff is Benoit's territory, and he's on server meshing right now, so it's just not getting fixed anytime soon.
Yeah, why do you think the party marker system hasn't been refactored? Because they knew they were going to have to refactor it for server meshing.
And they've said for years now that Org 2.0 is locked behind server meshing because it's the same devs. It sucks, but here we are. Once we can kick the stupid lump of crap that is Pyro out the door, we can finally get to the good features. Like herding cows. In other words, it is no longer alpha or early access. Much like we planned out Squadron 42's drive to feature complete and the upcoming content complete status, we spent significant time looking at what Star Citizen 1.0 means and what it would take to get there. To facilitate this, I am pleased to share that our very own Rich Tyrer will be taking over a new role as Senior Game Director, overseeing both the development of Star Citizen and Squadron 42 alongside me, Chris Roberts. With this change, you'll start to see more rapid expansion of features and content coming from Squadron 42 to Star Citizen, starting with Alpha 323, which is shaping up to be one of our biggest releases to date in terms of new features getting into players' hands. When we announced at CitizenCon that we would start bringing across feature work that we had developed and refined in the push to feature complete for Squadron 42, we were not kidding. And as game director on Squadron 42, Rich played a crucial role in helping steer Squadron 42 to its current feature complete status. Under his stewardship, Squadron 42 experienced a significant surge in progress and a momentum we fully anticipate will continue to carry us towards content complete beta and release.
And so this is part of why we're doing this episode this way, because they're talking about 1.0 and what release for 1.0 looks like. And so we're going to take a look at that after we get through the letter from the chairman. But we're also going to get caught up on the roadmap roundups for this quarter, because we're going to be looking at everything that they're bringing into Alpha 323 that they've talked about. There's only been a couple things that have been taking a minor hit, but other than that, it's just been more and more features getting added.
I think it's great that they said, like, hey, we can't spawn vehicles in the freight elevator, sorry. And then the IC comes out. By the way, you can just call up vehicles and drive them off the thing into the other parts of the hangar and just call up another ship. It's just like, you made a workaround for yourself. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Yeah. So there isn't. Yeah.
Did you want to do the quote?
Oh, yeah. I'll do the Richard Tyre senior game. Scroll down a little bit. There we go. So, firstly, I'd like to take this opportunity to say how great it is to be back working on Star Citizen. Some of you may already know me, but I was the core gameplay pillar director before I moved over to become the game director on Squadron 42 a few years back. So, if you remember, and as I covered this in the podcast when it happened in summer and fall 2021, or fall into summer, fall 2021, summer to summer 2022, they moved the core gameplay pillar and the teams under it over to Squadron 42. There's like 4 or 5 teams or whatever, along with this guy. They all moved over to have their work prioritized by Squadron 42. And on top of that, the UI teams, and I forget there was one other thing. So that's what is essentially moving back, is the core gameplay pillar and the UI teams. And, there's been a lot of other reorganization, but the core gameplay pillar is a lot of people. Yeah, it's so that was the big issue that people had, is all those people were working on. Everybody's like, oh, they're working on Squadron. It's like, no, they're working on core gameplay that is shared between Star Citizen and Squadron. As I covered it, you can go back and see all the deliverables that they're working on. They're shared deliverables. It's things like EVA Tier 2. It's things like the personal interaction system, PyPIS, whatever you want to call it. It's all the HUD and MFD stuff, the flight model, all of that. It falls into the core gameplay pillar, and that's what's they're being moved back into SC, and they're bringing all the feature work that they've done with them. With this new role, I'll be coming on board to help push Star Citizen to the next stage of its development, ultimately culminating in leaving early access and releasing the 1.0 version of the game. They want to, say Squadron releases maybe, I'm just going to throw a date out there, May 2025, with Invictus launch week or something. I'm just throwing that out there. That will be the 1.0 version of Squadron. And right now they are bringing everything over from Squadron that is feature complete, and then working from that to get to the 1.0 version of Star Citizen, the very polished, released version of Star Citizen with all the base features that they expect the game to be built on. And we're going to talk about those in a little bit. And of course, they'll continue to develop it. Just like for Squadron 42 Episode 2 and Episode 3, there will be more features and more locations and more ships, things added to it. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more added to Star Citizen, but it will continue to be developed. But it won't be in this sort of backwards manner where Squadron first, Star Citizen second. This begins with identifying what features and content are required to create a fully realized space MMO while laying the foundations for future updates. So that's what Naz and I are going to be looking at in a little bit. To be 100% clear, though, this doesn't mean going back to the drawing board or totally changing the vision of what SC currently is. I've already been seeing people go nuts of like, oh, they're going to cut a bunch of features and this is going to... They're literally saying That is not what we're doing. Whoops. Sorry, press the back button.
So I just looked it up to see exactly specific words. Content complete. The beta phase, blue, is where the game is considered content complete. No new content is allowed at all. The only thing that is done is fixing of existing bugs, and the low priority bugs tend to get put on the wish list or marked as shippable. So basically, and this is from Ask Game Dev .tumblr, but Ask Game Dev is very popularly known. So that's what they mean by content complete. They mean beta. Just putting that out there as a thing.
Yeah, that's very accurate. Because obviously there's going to be a lot of polishing for a long time, but it will have a good amount of polish. All the features and content will be there, and they'll continue to build on it. But the base that they expect will be there. Let's see. With this aim, Chris and I have overseen the creation of a roadmap that takes us all the way up to 1.0 and outlines all the features and content we need, and just as crucially, the ones that will come post-release. So this is really important because they have a vision for what 1.0 is, and then they have a vision for things that they will add post 1.0 release.
In the expansion packs.
Yeah, essentially, things that features,
confirmed
things that it's just things that they think, okay, this isn't foundational to the 1.0 experience of the game. This can come later. And I have
imagine
a
it
couple
has
question
something
marks
to do
on
with
our
the
notes.
Endeavor.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple question marks on things where I'm like, okay, is this a 1.0 feature or is this a post 1.0 feature? And we'll talk about that in a minute. But they do have a roadmap. Now, will we see this? I think we're going to see it. I think in the next, over the next year, this will get added, but they won't give dates. They're just going to say that here are the things that we're going to be working on. We think these things should come first, then these things, and then these things on the way to 1.0. We're not going to give a patch number. We're not going to give dates. That's what I would expect. A sort of incremental list of we're going to get building interiors in first, and then we'll work on asteroid facilities, as an example.
I think it will be, because Chris Roberts, a CitizenCon thing.
Oh, yeah. No,
I
totally
think
agree.
there'll be like a keynote 1.0, what is Star Citizen 1.0, whatever he wants to call it. I think it will be specifically not to what 1.0, the roadmap for 1.0. I think that specifically is going to be a CitizenCon thing. We'll get the progress tracker back in the interim, but specifically the what is 1.0 will be a talk for Chris at CitizenCon.
Yeah, White Crab is talking about the Black Ocean series of books. If you enjoy audiobooks and you enjoy sci-fi, I cannot recommend the Black Ocean series more. And there's there's Black Ocean, but then there's a bunch of offshoot series as well. Same characters, same universe, just sort of different timelines, but following individual characters. Oh my God, it's entertaining as all hell. And the narrator who does all the characters and the voices is so good. The characters are just so it is Firefly with space wizards and talking dogs.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good. It's good. You have to, especially like White Crab says, the entire Black Ocean series is an omnibus, 135 hours for one purchase. Like one credit is 10, 11, $12 or whatever. So yeah, if you're really looking for something to sink your teeth into, sorry, tangent, but I absolutely love it.
White Crab also asked how much of the Star Citizen player base is like old school Chris Roberts fans from Wing Commander. Not as many as you'd think. If you randomly ask,
it was
people
a greater
around,
portion earlier, but nowadays, yeah.
Post
I am one.
2018-19, it's really been a minority. A lot of people aren't here. Like, it's very common to find people who have no idea who Chris Roberts is and who didn't know Squadron 42 existed. It's pretty common to hear those two things.
Mm-hmm.
So, not a ton. There's a lot, but they're a very small minority.
I think that
Again,
people are going to
The
try and
1.1 million players.
I think that people are, and that's just the people who played this last year. There's like 2 million backers now, individual backers, because I can track what are duplicates and stuff, and people that have alts and what have you, and so that we're that's nuts. I think that like you said, I think that's definitely a CitizenCon thing, and we're gonna take a look at that because they've done it before. They made the mistake of saying patch numbers and all that, and I think that they are going to have learned and do the whole no dates, just this is the list, and these are the things that we're planning on getting out release first, and this is what comes after, and this is that, and that way this whole list is what the 1.0 vision is, and here are the things that we plan to develop post 1.0, and they won't give any sort of ammo to the refundians of Reddit to say, oh, they'll never hit that timeline. They won't give us a timeline. They're just going to say this is what we're working on, and this is what we're working on, and we have nearly 1,200 devs to work on it now. So it's I think it's a good plan. Let's see.
So, according to this, Freelancer, which is easily the most brought up Chris Roberts game, no sales in Japan, according to this website. Again, probably is very wrong, but no sales in Japan. Not allowed to say how many sales, but it's 0.02 million in Asia, 0.03 in Europe, some smattering of some them 0.0 million in other, and then 0.05 total. So I imagine the other includes the US. So yeah, we have 1.1 million Star Citizens. There's a lot of us. Not huge in Japan. I mean, it was a different time and it was a specific game. So it's just it may have been big for what it was. Just it didn't, break 1 million sales in these locations.
Let's see. So,
Yes.
With my role now overseeing both projects with Chris and the fact that Squadron 42 has hit its feature complete milestone, it has provided an opportunity to reshuffle the teams. This should see a large contingent of gameplay teams now coming back to focus on SC. A large contingent. Not all of them. A large contingent of gameplay teams. Now, there are still going to be the cinematics teams, the environment and locations teams, all those people, the people that you need to build the chapters and do all the level design for Squadron are going to stay on Squadron. But the majority of the gameplay people are coming back over. We've also taken the opportunity to move away from heavily specialized teams like Actor Feature, which was one of the core gameplay pillar teams, and Vehicle Feature, again, another core gameplay pillar team, to more generic gameplay teams that should allow us to be a lot more flexible and shoulder some of the heavier burdens those teams used to carry. That's why in the monthly reports it's more written now. It's, what is it called? It's do they just call it core gameplay pillar or?
Yeah. Well, not pillar, just core gameplay.
Yeah, the core gameplay part of the monthly report, because all these teams are part of a greater, larger team, allowing them to work more in concert and less in isolation. There's been numerous times throughout the game's development where things have been developed and you run into it that, oh, okay, this team was working kind of in a silo, and they didn't think about how this thing that they're working on affected or needed to be better integrated with this thing that is the responsibility of another team. And so that's going to be going away, so that way features get developed in a more holistic way. While these teams will still be instrumental in shipping Squadron 42, that's why some, not all, it's a large contingent, not all of them, they will now be focused on bringing all the existing features over to SC, as well as working on brand new features like base building and crafting to help round out the 1.0 experience. So that basically telling us that base building and crafting are part of 1.0. But we probably
Woot.
already knew that because we knew they were going to be working on it this year. After being told at CitizenCon, at least base building. But they did mention crafting as part of essentially part of base building. With every release going forward, the intention is to move ourselves closer to that end goal. So you should expect to see large updates each quarter with many changes to systems that have not been touched in a long time, like economy, insurance, but more importantly, economy. Why do you think they've been making these economy changes? Because they're setting a baseline.
I don't think that. I wouldn't actually say that economy takes precedent over the changes to insurance there. Because the implication of insurance being cited there is the game getting a lot harder, and it's going to stop being so arcadey, so death forgiving. The implication of them saying, hey, we're going to be working on not 323 balance or 4.0 balance or 4.1 balance. We're going to be working on 1.0 balance, which means a lot of the systems are going to start really cranking down on their forgiveness. One of the big things they're going to start cranking down on is security in the next update. Timers are going to get longer. Stuff's going to get harder to get. Death's going to mean more. And you're going to be up the creek without a paddle a lot.
Yeah, the arcadiness is going to go away, especially as they get to work on additional systems. But even in Stanton, things are
Engineering is in 323 in Ring Commander.
Yep. Targeted for 4.0.
So,
yep. We talked about it in a previous episode. But this is a big thing because there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of things that they were released years ago, multiple years ago. They haven't been refactored. They haven't been touched because they were going to wait until the game, other things were developed. And so now that other things have been developed or getting integrated, these teams can come back and work on, because not only do you have to have, these new features from Squadron coming in to give you that sort of feature complete 1.0 experience, but you also have to refactor those older features and bring them back up to that same level parity. Because there's a lot of legacy content in the game. Some of it's just getting straight up replaced with the new things from Squadron, but there's things for the PU only that have been in game for years that need to be refactored and to not only work with the new technologies that we're getting in the form of server meshing, the replication layer, these microservices, but also to just change the way that we interact with them and to better represent what the experience is going forward. So economy, insurance, Quantum is not dead, folks. They're just setting the baseline for what Quantum will work with to start, but I wouldn't expect to see Quantum until after base building and resource management for locations.
I wouldn't be shocked if Quantum is like one of the last systems for 1.0. Yeah, I think virtual NPC and that entire Tony Z everything is 1.0.
No, I agree. I can see that. The big thing for the economy portion of it is you have to have resource management for locations, and resource management isn't just the physical portion in ships that you can interact with. It's just the recipe system that runs under the hood, because there will be production nodes at places like Lorville that you will never see. And the only way they interact with by players is via you putting things into the freight elevator and taking things out. And the resource management system will take those things and they'll disappear, and then you'll use it along with labor, quanta, in order to make new things. And then they'll pop out and you take it and you'll go somewhere else with it. But they demonstrated how that would work in the first Quantum presentation with the recipe system. That's what resource management is. It's a recipe system, and they just showed you the basics. But that's how it's going to work. Is it's going to require materials and it's going to require labor. So, alongside a whole suite of quality of life improvements to things like inventory, yay, the looting menu. Oh my gosh. and not having the magic bag of holding by just pressing I. The mission system is going to get a big revamp with server meshing. And the mobiGlass, coupled with totally brand new features and content. We have set very ambitious goals for ourselves internally, both for the game and technology teams. But Chris and I truly believe that they are achievable. We'll see how. I really like their passion, but Rich and Chris are notorious for setting very lofty goals. Now, do I think that, in previous years, if they hit 50% of what they're working to achieve, it was a miracle. But now I think we're at the point where they'll probably hit 80 to 90% of what they're trying to achieve, if they were to set a timeline. But they won't set timelines, so we'll be safe. Junkyard in Space 07, thanks for coming and hanging out with us. Yeah, Chris is more overly ambitious than Rich. He is, but man, I mean, there's been multiple times where you get them on camera at the same time and they feed on each other. Like, what was it, the 2021 CitizenCon?
The Rich
right?
Tower Talk?
Or was that 22?
Yeah. That
I'm brain
was...
farting.
I think that was 22. That was the last year before...
the last non-live year. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one, when they did
boy.
their big... they did a big Death of a Spaceman type talk, covering that and numerous other things in 2020, before Death of before Regeneration had a name and it was just an idea, without all the lore to go with it. Man, anytime you get the two of them on camera together, oh, wow, yeah, it's always that way, and it's always Jared has to, bring him back in, and as much as it's interesting to hear, they go off on tangents and it makes it really hard to follow. Yeah, nothing wrong with being a dreamer, absolutely. And I think the CIG as a company, in terms of its capabilities, is much closer to being capable of delivering more of what the dream is in a reasonable time frame than it was 3, 5, 7 years ago. Now, 100% able to? No. Let's be realistic, at least not in terms of time frame. But yeah, the gap has been narrowed considerably.
Plus, they have gotten a little better at it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of trial and error and failure, and pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and keep going. Nazeris Spencer, you continue.
All right. Working in tandem with Rich, Chris Roberts, will continue to establish the strategic vision to bring to life the intended Star Citizen gameplay experience. The intended Star Citizen gameplay experience, a.k.a. stuff's going to get hard. Listen to the words that they're saying. As Rich said, over the past few months, our teams have been busily planning in the upcoming major milestones for the persistent universe, culminating in what we refer to as Star Citizen 1.0. As that roadmap comes together and becomes validated, we look forward to sharing with you both its vision and executional plan later this year. And when they say later this year, they almost always mean CitizenCon.
Yep, 100%.
And the reason they have to build it, check it, and then validate it is because Chris has actually done something really smart. He said, hey, I'm really excited. Producers, what do you think we can accomplish? John Crew, how many ships can we get out, and what are those ships? He doesn't say, we're going to get this ship and this ship and this ship. I'm going to sell 5 more concepts. We're going to get this ship done. No, he goes to John Crew and says, John Crew, what can your team do? What ships are we releasing till we get to 1.0? He's been very good at that over the past 2 years. He's leaning more heavily on his producers, on his team leads, to tell him what the plan is, not him trying to tell them what the plan is, which is how we got, 2016 Squadron release.
Oof.
It will always exist until we have Star Citizen 1.0 and Squadron 42 released. That will be the fallback stab. Always. People try to use like 600 million in 12 years. I'm like, that's an accomplishment. What do you mean? They're not released. They've raised $600 million and they're still alive. It's insane. But yeah, they're checking with their plans with the teams. That's what the validation, I believe. I don't have any proof, but that's what I believe the validation is. And that it can actually be done. As part of this development reorganization, we have made a few significant changes from a personnel standpoint. I have moved to Austin, Texas from Los Angeles to be closer in time zone to our main development operations in Manchester, Frankfurt, and Montreal. As far as I know, he's still in Manchester, isn't he?
They were in Manchester for a while. They moved from Los Angeles to he was staying in Manchester for a bit, but they were still like living in LA.
Yeah.
But before moving to LA, he was living in Austin. When they first started everything, he was living in Austin.
Interesting.
So he's come around full circle.
Hmm.
But I think that also means
Sure.
that, and I have heard this via multiple people at CIG, that CIG Austin is the next studio to get a new office. So
Oh, very cool.
yeah,
Whether
it'll probably be a new office, but not a big expansion, because Austin is expensive.
Yeah, not as expensive as LA.
Yeah,
Texas has better tax benefits as well. Nice.
Yeah, it does from a corporate standpoint, but everything in Austin is expensive. It is really hard for people to live there and work. It is not super sustainable for devs.
I'm spending significant time in our largest studio in Manchester. There we go. With almost 600 staff, I sit with Rich and the teams working towards completion of Quadrant 42 and Star Citizen. As part of this, we made the difficult decision to ask the Los Angeles studio, our Los Angeles development team, which had increasingly been providing support for the main development teams based in Manchester, to relocate to join other teams, primarily in Manchester, but also in Austin and Montreal. I don't know who said it, so I don't know if it's an actual source. But also, as expensive as Texas is, Los Angeles is actually getting much worse, much faster.
Oh yeah,
and so it's
most of Texas is still very affordable, but Austin is stupid expensive. Yeah,
got it. So like keeping up, and I think they mentioned this in the financial report, keeping up with inflation in the U.S., specifically in California, is where it's actually hurting them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why they are deprioritizing LA. They want to keep paying people a livable wage, but the U.S. and California. So
So interesting thing right here. If you remember when they announced the new studio in Manchester back in what was it, 2020?
Yeah.
They said that the goal was for at the end of 2023 for it to be home to 700 staff, up from 400 when it was in I forget the name of the other town. So now it's almost 600 in Manchester. They're still 100 off of their goal for end of 2023, and the goal for the end of 2026 for Manchester was 1,000. So that's how much they still want to hire another 400 devs just for Manchester, and they're at over 1,100. So Naz and I did the math when we were talking about the future funding model for Star Citizen, and we said between 1,600 and 2,000 total devs for CIG by the end of 2026. And here they are. They're 100 off of their goal for Manchester, and they're at a total of over 1,100. So, yeah, they're
I'm pretty sure it's not PC. I'm pretty sure it's energy consumption. Specifically, just PCs are... No, they do have specific things on PCs because PCs draw so much power. Mm-hmm. I remember that. Yeah. That sucks. Like, you're not allowed to have like a 1,500 watt power supply or something.
Yep.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't order it shipped to California. You have to essentially smuggle it in.
Yep. Yeah, and then there's the water consumption stuff. Like LA is just a mess right now. Not
Mhm.
LA, but California is just they are hurting in all of the ways. Electricity storage, not shortage as much as they are trying to. They basically got to the whole. We see electricity consumption as a problem that is basically instead of saying let's do a whole bunch of green energy, they said let's make people stop using fossil fuels by taxing them for it. So they got to the whole crypto and Web3 power problem before it became a thing. And so instead of just saying, hey, we're going to work on these green energy things, they're like, we're just going to make it more expensive to use fossil fuels. It's California.
Back to
I don't
Star
know.
Citizen.
Back to Star Citizen. LA,
Antimatter
while
reactors.
shrinking. Antimatter reactors. Yes! Will still be in LA, while shrinking, will still be an important office for the company, but one focused on the business and support, or a business support role with marketing, finance, and legal and HR. As part of this reorganization, we sadly wave goodbye to the Persistent Universe Live director Todd Pappy, as he had to move back to the U.S. from the U.K. last year for family reasons. After much soul searching, I determined that we cannot afford to have this role remote from the main team in Manchester for a good portion of the year. It is a sad moment, as Todd worked diligently for the last 9 years on Star Citizen, making many important contributions and providing excellent leadership of his teams. I wish him the best of luck and look forward to seeing what he does next, as do we all. I will miss him, and I will miss the sunny skies, the beaches of LA or Los Angeles, but Star Citizen Squadron 42 takes precedent. The journey is longer than and more difficult than I anticipated 11 and a half years ago, but the final destination is so much more exciting and fulfilling. I would
Because the
have never
destination
in my
has changed. What the original goal 11 and a half
Yeah.
years ago is not anywhere close to what it is now. That's why it's
Yep.
so much more exciting and fulfilling.
Yeah, server meshing was really not a thing they were planning on doing.
Oh, it wasn't.
Heck, they
Server meshing
planned
wasn't a
for
plan. The landable planets wasn't a thing. Yeah,
yeah, load screens were the plan. They were the plan.
yeah. It was going to be Freelancer 2, Wing Commander 2, or Wing Commander Sex 7, whatever it is.
Yeah. I would have never in my dreams expected to have an opportunity to build something on the scale and ambition of Star Citizen. So say every lead designer ever. And because of this feel incredibly there's an I missing. And because of this, I feel incredibly blessed by all of your support, and I am determined to finish strong. There's an I missing. Anyway, in a marathon, they say the last mile is the hardest. But to quote the Roman Emperor Marcus, some Greek name, what we do now echoes in eternity. And somebody tried to convince me that this Roman guy is more famous than like Abraham Lincoln or a participation in the call you joined has clipped enabled something. What are you doing?
Oh, I streamed the screen. I forgot to do it for you earlier.
Oh, okay, I see. Thanks. I'm looking forward to you. I'm looking forward. Nope. I am looking forward to you getting your hands on Star Citizen Alpha 323 soon, where you will finally be able to experience many features we have been hard at work on for the past couple of years, which will then lead into Invictus launch week in May. As a lead up to Invictus, we have prepared a series of missions to earn your UEE Civilian Defense Force stripes and potentially earn an incredible, powerful, and unprecedented, really, in-game upgrade if you complete all of them, so you are ready to face Xeno threat in more personal manner. And I guess we now know what that is, being the Hornet.
F7 and F7A Mark II, F7C Mark II.
We just make it viable in game. Be nice.
No. Oh yeah, make a Bible. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a Roman name. It's a Greek name. It's a Greek name. Don't even. He's one of the most famous guys of all time. I'm not convinced. Like Genghis Khan. I know who Genghis Khan is. Khan. I know who Alexander the Great was. I know, well, I know the Han Dynasty. I don't know any of the emperors specifically. I know, there goes his name, Gandhi. I don't know Marcus Greek.
Marcus Aurelius Roman. That's Roman.
I know, but his name is Greek.
No, that's a Roman name.
Yes, all Romans
He's-
are Greeks.
How are all Romans Greeks?
Because they
Rome is in
traded
Italy.
places. Yes, because Greek owned everything before Rome owned everything back and then owned more.
Okay.
They counter-captured all the bases.
All right, please continue, because we got a long ways to go.
I'm down at the last bit.
Yep.
Your turn. You want me to keep going then?
Yeah. You're.
Okay.
Yeah.
The power of community. The driving force behind our success is our extended team, each and every one of you. Together, we have built a community that not only plays a crucial role in our development, but also embodies our shared passion for the Star Citizen universe. It is you who have propelled us forward. Without your passion, your willingness to test, to be undeterred by bugs and crashes, to be vocal with your thoughts, and stamina for a long and windy road, there would be no Star Citizen or CIG. You were there for the iconic helmet flip and the opening of the hangar doors for the first time in Alpha 0.8. Together, we explored the vast expanse of the persistent universe for the first time in Alpha 2.0. And you were on board for the inaugural planetary landing in Alpha 3.0. And soon we will be leaving the Stanton system as we venture into the lawless wasteland of the Pyro system in Alpha 4.0, thanks to server meshing. And beyond this, Star Citizen 1.0, no Alpha, twinkles on the horizon. The future has never been so bright, and I couldn't be happier taking this journey with all of you. Chris Roberts, founder and CEO of Cloud Imperium Games.
Hooray! Alrighty, so that is it for the letter from the chairman. And now I'm going to go ahead and switch screens really quickly and close that tab, and then we'll pull up the next bits of information, because we're going to launch right into what Star Citizen 1.0 might be like. Close that. Oops. Okay, and I need these images. Oh, where did they go? Okay. All right, and switching back. So, after all the talk about Star Citizen 1.0 in the letter from the chairman, we thought it would be appropriate to talk about what 1.0 might look like. And so we came up with there's two big sources for features and things and plans for what release might look like in Star Citizen. The first of which was the CitizenCon presentation in 2016. And during this, they did a sort of roadmap. Obviously, it was wildly inaccurate, but it gave you a good idea of a whole bunch of things that they wanted to include, in Star Citizen going forward in the future. They were talking about leading up to 4.0, and I think that a lot of these things are probably going to be in the lead up to 1.0. But we also had the actual road to release presentation at CitizenCon 2948, much of which was
as
reiterated.
laughable
Yeah.
as 2016, but it got up there.
this is more of it didn't show any patch numbers or anything like that. It was more just talking about the if a presentation could be the theme song from Star Trek Enterprise, this would be it. Because it talked about a lot of the things that were leading up to the development on persistence, PES, and because PES wasn't a thing at this point. The plan, they really hadn't even named iCache yet. They were still just calling it persistence because it was a feature, a piece of technology that they wanted, that they were building towards. But a lot of this presentation looks at a number of those pieces of technology. So if you haven't watched this presentation, I can't count how many times I've watched it. I was there for it live. I'm dropping it in the chat. If you're watching live on YouTube, it's going to be in the show notes. But I highly recommend you watch this presentation. It's only 23 minutes, but it does a really good job of grounding all the major steps that came before PES, came before the failure of iCache, came before PES and the replication layer and the entity graph, and before server meshing, along with numerous other gameplay mechanics that are considered really foundational to the experience. So we're not going to watch this presentation, but I wanted to highlight it. But and we're not going to watch this part of the presentation at CitizenCon 2016, but this link will be in the show notes as well. It starts at 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 29 seconds, and only goes for like 6 minutes or so. I think is the important part before it gets into
the patch numbers.
Yeah, and this was the CitizenCon where they did the Planet Tech V2, the initial demonstration of that.
The Layer 3 demo.
Yep, exactly. But what I did is I downloaded these videos and I pulled some images of them, and so I'm going to show you those images from the presentations, and you can look at some of those features and think about, okay, do we have this? Is it in development right now, and or is it going to need a big refactor? So first and foremost, we're going to look at
crucial to a complete experience.
Exactly. Yeah. Is this something that would be included in what they're talking about? For sure.
Yeah, it is specifically complete experience. It's not, would this be cool in the game? Because the answer is yes. The idea of 1.0 is a rounded experience. Like you said, for it to be stable and for it to have enough content to keep players busy. He said for infinite, but for a good amount of time. For any expansion of the game to make sense off of what we already have.
I like to think of it as if you're talking about the professions and the sort of core mechanics like that. If you look at what mining is right now, imagine what that is for basically all the professions. And
mining
that's where
plus Orion.
Yeah, that's essentially where they're trying to get to 1.0, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, they've only gotten mining done. It's going to take forever." It's like, well, that's because the team has been growing like this, and now we're way up here. We have all these devs to work on all these features, and a lot of these features have already had a lot of work, and it's so it's not the same thing. It's not the same. It's not accurate to make that comparison.
A lot like the other systems that they've made. The ship naming, the ship customization with the 300i. They work on them, they release them, they work on them again, and once they get them to a place they're happy with, their development of it's done. Now it's just content, so it's feature done, feature complete, not content complete. So, with mining being a complete profession, minus Orion, they have the land, or the not land, I guess landmarks. They have the plan of what a profession is. Now that planning work's done, they don't need to do everything for everyone to get it all up to the same thing. So they have their plan. Now it's to get to the other features, and we can get back to the content that will make all these other professions line up with mining. Down.
All right, so this is the first slide from that 2016 presentation. And so this is what 3.0, what they were targeting. and 3.0 wasn't released at this point. And so they call these the basic professions, and these are the things that we have right now in game and have had for years now. Cargo transport
cargo.
and training, yeah, I can't, I will not give them cargo, but we are that's the list, is and actually I should have made this a separate thing that we could look at, but we've been able to do trading forever, but the trading profession, what we have right now, is not what we're going to have in the future. They are going to make changes to that. You're going to be able to trade in finished goods, not just commodities. We're getting cargo missions in 323, along with the freight elevators and all sorts of ability to move cargo. So we're really sort of tying the loose end around that basic profession. Smuggling, we got a long ways to go on that. But piracy is, especially with all the cargo stuff.
Technically in the game, smuggling is just cargo that's illegal.
Mm-hmm. But it's there should be more to it in terms of like shielding your cargo and avoiding patrols and blah blah blah. It's very rudimentary. Whereas piracy
if we're talking about basic professions, as in these features are complete, not that's just they're in some form. Is that where we're going with this? Okay. Yeah, smuggling's nowhere near then.
Yeah, they are in some form, but they're going to have to do work to bring it up to smuggling closer to the level of mining. But it doesn't really have to be, because it's sort of looped in there with piracy. But there's going to have to be more to the gameplay mechanic in terms, because they've talked about moving, not just flying into the spaceport and selling your goods. You're going to have to move them in,
and not just finding the one station
via the front door.
No questions.
Yeah, it isn't just going to be flying into the front door and selling it or not, and selling it at the right kiosk. There's going to be more to it. Yeah. Now we have bounty hunter missions, but it's very rudimentary, and so this you can kind of see how, okay, if these are some of the professions that they want in game, but they want them to be more at the level of mining is now, they do have a good deal of work to do to get that 1.0 release, because they want to have people who want to do piracy, who want to do trading or any of these other things, to be able to have the same quality of experience as somebody who enjoys mining. They want them to be feature parity, but yeah, so that's some of the basic professions. So let's look at some more of them. Obviously, we have mining. We can only refine at space stations. And so we need ship-based refining, as well as probably location-based refining, your base and other outposts and such. Quantum interdiction, we have that right now, but it's going to have to get refactored in order to work with the new quantum travel system, because that works entirely different than what we have right now. We have refueling. It needs more work in order to make it more viable, but it does function as a mechanic. Obviously, it needs a lot of bug fixing, but that's in there, and is going to need some more work to get it up to a mining level of parity. We're just now starting to get escort missions. Holy crap!
Are we?
But that
what are we getting?
Well, we're not getting them, but they are working on them. They've been talking about them in the monthly reports. Yeah. But so a lot of the work leading up, in 3.0, 3.1, and so on, leads up to this sort of release of all the professions that they want in the game. But you have to look at all those professions and gameplay mechanics as, is this a more complete experience? And a lot of them, it isn't. Now, obviously, Naz and I were talking about salvage earlier, and salvage has a lot going for it now. It's not mining complete, but it's made a lot of progress towards getting there. We've got refactors of ships to get their components. We have to get the full Maelstrom version of hull munching, because it's long-live vehicle munching, not whatever they call it now. we have the basics of repair that came with salvage. You can put skin back on ship. You can replace components, but we can't do structural repair, and we have none of the repair ships. So
And
really,
we have no. I know it's more engineering gameplay, but tuner.
yeah,
tuner
tuning.
stuff.
Yep. And so that's going to have to come into the game, with the repair drones from the Vulcan and the Crucible repair ship. And
It's really
however,
interesting
go for it.
to see all the ships that they said in all of these slides that would come in and what we actually got.
Mm-hmm.
Because we now have all these ones, but there's a bunch
Yeah.
in the last one we didn't get. It's really
I'm
interesting.
going to copy that. I'm going to make a Google
And
Doc
socially
really
confused.
quick.
I have a thing that I ask anyone who brings up science, because nobody can tell me what you do, what the player does in the game to constitute science gameplay.
Yeah.
And I've not found a good answer for that myself. As someone who is trying to be a game designer, I still haven't been able to figure out what I would make science gameplay.
I'm going to make that a little
It's
bit
like,
bigger.
sure, you have a microscope, but that could be just it. Well, it is placeholder art. But what do you do for science? Is it not box missions, or how is it not box missions, or scanning, or mining, or whatnot? Cartography seems to be the closest. That's exploration. That's not science.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that too. You probe things.
So it's a thing.
Yeah, right, caveman. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us this evening. Yeah, engineering,
probe things.
the resource management, and that's really just for ships, is going to be tested in Marine Command 3.3, is targeting a 4.0 release. So I'm just going to go through these slides, and then we're going to look at the list that Naz and I have come up with, and it's definitely not all inclusive, but it's the things that we can come off the top of our head from the CitizenCon presentation, from looking this last year's, and then from these other two. But you can get an idea. So mercenary covert operations. So
Which
this is
technically coming in 323.
Yeah, the stealth missions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think of is the stealth mechanics. That this is going to be, and it's going to get more fleshed out with the features coming from Squadron. Being able to avoid scanning, using being scanned, using the right equipment, using the different. What's the word for the whole system of like vaulting and
Parkour.
Isn't there? It's your player parkour,
Player
but be able to
movement system.
Yeah, the new movement and interaction system in order to be able to access areas. Yeah, there you go, traversal. Yeah, the new traversal system.
Oh, okay.
Which includes all that stuff. That's a covert operations is a conglomeration of features that are largely already being developed for Squadron, being ported into the PU to expand upon mercenary missions to give you an alternative method of completing that mission.
So Junkyardin asked, are there some new unknown missions coming in 323? They're not legit public knowledge yet.
Yes.
How would we know if they're not public knowledge?
There's been lots of hints, but they've been saying things in the monthly reports about things, but they probably won't have a specific roadmap card, but will get talked about maybe in the what do they call it, Nas? The
Patch watch?
Yep, there we go. I don't think that they will
might
get
make it info, but floating around. I mean, we know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. I mean, how would we know about something we don't know?
Yeah, and if it was data mined, there's a very good chance it won't be 323, but something later on, because there's a lot of things that end up accidentally into a branch that are being worked on, but aren't being worked on for that dev branch, for that release, that targeted release.
And there's been a lot of a lot of the prerequisite stuff was getting in, like leaking in that data miners got for Quanta stuff, and that's way nowhere near.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually are pretty open on what mission modules they're working on. And the mission team and the narrative team, which are going to be what have taken over and are currently developing mission givers, are going to be doing with them. It's an interesting kind of like, because there will be slightly more mission types, not types, but missions specifically, that use the stuff that has been built to make new missions, but it will be new missions based on the processes we're already doing in the game. So the only thing new about it, like maybe we get a box of metals from a distribution center and bring it to the distribution center's store. Like, that's a new mission, but it's a box mission. Like, that's the kind of stuff that we're in for. There will come a time, mostly 4.0, that they have said, hey, there's a ton of new mission tech in 4.0. And we'll see a ton of new types of missions in 4.0. So, depending on what you mean by new missions.
Yeah, and there's a lot that they've been developing that they haven't gotten to. Okay, we've built this many pieces of the mission, but we can't build these other pieces of the mission until we get this, this, and this. And so they have gone part way with some of them. You know, you can go back and look at the progress tracker of the things that they've been working on, the mission feature team over the last 2 years. And there's a lot of mission types that have been worked on that we haven't gotten in game yet, because they've been working on them, prototyping, you know, starting to get the ball rolling because they know they want to include them, but they can't finish that work until something else gets wrapped up. There's a farming module on the Endeavor. Yeah.
Not the Reliant. Oh yeah, the Endeavor. Yeah, that's the Endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone has the funds to grab an Endeavor buyback chip, then I would definitely say do that. Because it's going to get really big.
Mm-hmm.
Blame the beer. We blame the beer then.
Yeah. So here they talk about 3.3 farming and rescue. We have nothing for farming yet. Not even close. There's been no development. Just like it's at the same level as science.
Well, no, we know what farming is.
Yeah, we know what farming is, and they've been showing outposts. They've been showing the fauna. So I think that because they've been showing that sort of stuff off, I think we're probably going to look at farming as a 1.0 feature, a road to 1.0 feature. But there's been no development on farming gameplay. But we see all the modules, and that to me, farming is another one of those things this is a location-based resource management thing in terms of, in order to grow these crops, you have to give them water, and you have to bring the seed and put input fertilizer into this greenhouse dumper thing. And like rescue, we have medical tier 0. Medical tier 0.
2.5.
Yeah, and actor status tier 1. They have been talking about getting back to work on medical tier 1 in order to bring us medical tier 1 and actor status tier 2 for a couple of years now. They were going to get started on, and they said that they started on production for the Apollo. Haven't heard hide nor hair of it since the end of last year. But
again, scheduling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But rescue has, since the very beginning, been designed, medical and rescue, to be one of the most versatile and in-depth professions in the entire game. It's always been said to be that way. So there's going to be a whole lot more to it. But they have to get to work on that. And so, lastly,
do you guys know how complex the Idaho potato harvester is? That they cost $2 million. The John Deere ones that you're not allowed to touch because you obviously can't comprehend them. So you must be a stupid farmer person and not allowed to replace a switch on your own tractor. Those ones?
Yep. They're gigantic.
I hate that so much. Like, sure, they're complex, but dang it, this is their life. I think if you gave them a manual, they could figure it out.
And then 4.0, obviously we're coming up on 4.0 now. And a lot of those things, they're like, oh man, they're high as a kite if they thought they were going to get those in before 4.0 get those in. They were targeting to do this over the next year in 2016. Yeah, good luck.
Oh boy.
But this is, they're talking about 4.0. They say travel to multiple star systems. This is before 4.0 meant pyro and server meshing, static server meshing, that has been the goal for several years now. So really, this is like the road to 1.0. All the gameplay mechanics and professions that they want to have on the way to 1.0. They want to have multiple star systems on the way to 1.0. They want to have exploration and discovery on the in 1.0. Science and research, all of that. We're not going to talk about ships because ships don't make the release. But this is really.
Can we quickly go through all of them and see what the ships that we got and don't have are? Because it's hilarious.
RSI Orion and the Crucible don't have. We got the Carrick. We got the 890. We don't have the Bandit
We got the
Merchantman.
890 really early compared to this.
And that's going to need a lot of work. The Reliant, we have. Do we have all the variants?
Yep. We got everything.
Gonna need refactors. We had the Taurus, the Phoenix, the Terrapin, all the Vanguards. We got the Reclaimer.
Just got the Reclaimer. Well, we got the Reclaimer functional.
Mm-hmm. We have the 85X. We have the Prospector. We have the Hull C. We have the red and the blue, and of course the black, which was way old.
I think this page is the most funny.
Ursa Rover,
the
Dragonfly.
Rover, but the Aquila came a little while after.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I think that's hilarious. Just how completely backwards all of the ships were, except for the Orion and Crucible that we still don't have, and the Merchantman.
Oh, and before here, I need to.
I keep forgetting the A5X exists.
Yeah.
For some reason, I never have enough brain RAM to remember the A5X because I would never use it. Like there's so many other vehicles I would use before the A5X, and I love Origin chips. My daily driver, once I'm able to buy it in game, is probably going to be the 400i. One of my favorite ships in the game is the 600i. Oh boy.
Let's see. And I'm trying to. I thought the quote was in this presentation, and I can't find it.
Which one?
The 5 to 10 star systems thing. Do you remember where that was? I forgot to pull that up.
Not off the top of my head, I don't. I know a great resource to find out. To the Starchives.
So made this little list of things for 1.0, and a lot of it is things that were talked about in the CitizenCon 2016 presentation, because really this was a roadmap to release, not a roadmap to 4.0 presentation. But also a number of things that are in this road to release presentation, more tech-wise. But we broke it down into these groupings. And I'm going to, let's see, can I make this bigger? Full screen. There you go. So what might 1.0 look like? Tech. Obviously, we need dynamic server meshing, because static server meshing is just what we're getting in 4.0. It's going to be a static mesh of shard spins up. It has one replication layer and 4 servers. 2 for Stanton, 2 for Pyro. That's just a speculation, because that's what they said the minimum viable product was. And they may do, in 4.1, they may increase that static mesh from 1 replication layer and 4 servers to 1 and 6 or 1 and 8, depending on what improvements they make. It just remains to be seen. But we need dynamic server meshing for 1.0. And obviously they're pushing really hard for dynamic server meshing, because that's part of the reason they're doing all this testing, is not only to see where the server, see what transit what configurations work best in terms of transitions from server to server, but also to try and stress the replication layer. Because with dynamic server meshing, you not only need to scale the number of dedicated game servers for the simulation, you also need to scale up the replication layer and make multiple replicants in order to scale up the size of a shard. To take that shard from 2,000 people at low hours to 10,000 people at peak hours or something like that, just as an example, and be able to scale it up and down. So you have to be able to scale up both of those things, and there'll be services that tell these things how to scale and how that all works. The other thing that we need tech-wise is the Vulkan API. Now, it doesn't look like it's going to make it into 323. But we are getting the what's it called? The upscaling.
The time scaling. What? Oh no, temporal upscaling.
Yeah. There's 3 different versions:
is,
the FSR, TSR is the in-house, and what's the NVIDIA one?
DLSS.
There we go, DLSS.
So I love the difference between CAG naming crap and NVIDIA naming crap, because temporal upscaling is what CIG called it. I mean, yes, technically it's under the umbrella of DLSS, but it's a specific feature in DLSS. And what it does is it just looks at the previous frame plus AI to predict what the next frame is going to look like. I forget what the exact, but NVIDIA's marketing for it did not try to describe that it works in 4 dimensions. Like, the monthly reports are definitely not a marketing ploy, that's for sure.
No. But it's good that we're getting that, because
Oh, for sure, that's gonna be great.
yeah. And the Ben Perry, right? That's what his name was. He said in Spectrum recently he didn't know if Vulkan was going to make it into 323, but if you read about Vulkan in the monthly reports recently, they are very nearly to having it ready to ship. Now, obviously, it will get iterated on after it releases to us. There'll be lots of bug fixing and optimizations and such, just like they did for Gen 12. But it's a core piece of technology for both the release of Squadron and Star Citizen, because people still experience poor performance, and the Vulkan API is a big part of what's going to really improve people's performance by really better utilizing the GPU and being able to allow for parallel and multi-threading on the CPU. So that's the other big tech thing. And then I included global illumination underneath that, because really, and wasn't there another thing that they showed off at CitizenCon after global illumination?
This fire.
Yeah. But really, for it to be considered even a current gen game, you really got to have global illumination these days. And it's going to really make things look great.
Which I'm happy about.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I will take your ray tracing and VR.
Mm-hmm.
VR is probably.
Ray
wonder
tracing.
if VR is actually
Yeah.
going to be. GI is ray tracing.
Yeah. I just meant to. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
There we go.
People sometimes do try to split them up, but
yeah,
GI
because global illumination uses
GI
ray tracing, but you can do other things with ray tracing besides just GI.
Yes, like a lot of people thought that ray tracing meant reflections when NVIDIA did it. But ray tracing can be applied to a vast array of things, being global illumination, reflections, including sound. And the sound guys back 2 years ago, I think it was,
I know what you're talking about.
talked about
Reverb?
They would really like. Well, ray tracing sound is actually not just reverb. It specifically is able, because of how rays work in computer, they are able to pick up data as they bounce around the scene, which means it can tell what surface, if you give the surface data, what surface it's bouncing off of. So you can actually have a sound system that says, okay, the sound's bouncing around. We're in a cloth environment, so we're going to dampen the sound. We're in a metallic environment, so we're going to bounce down the hallway, and you'll be able to hear us much farther away. We're in a big room, so we'll have a lot of echo. We're in a small room, so it's going to sound really claustrophobic.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of sound systems, much like how lighting has been affected by ray tracing, a lot of sound systems have been built to mimic these things, so that you can give the environment, like the room system that they use, you could give that the data to say, hey, you're a small room, you're a padded room, you're a metal room, have these sound characteristics. With ray tracing, as long as you build the materials or the surfaces with the data, you don't have to build in the audio system that is static. Ray tracing can do it dynamically. So you can have one surface be cloth, one surface be metal, and depending on how the sound physically bounces around the environment, it will have different audible characteristics, which is terrible for anyone like who has like cinematic specifics. So for the film directors of game development, but is amazing for like something that like a dynamic game, something like you build in, because you can have this giant environment and then build up whatever you want, and the sound system could dynamically change to that.
Yeah, it's systemic versus having to handcraft a bunch of stuff, and
Yes.
you'd still have to handcraft like for Squadron, you'd have to handcraft their cinematic scenes and everything, and certain portions of the gameplay to get the exact thing that you wanted. But it would reduce a lot of the workload, especially for like the multiplayer universe. And then I think that Maelstrom is definitely a 1.0 thing, partly because you need Maelstrom for the real version of hole munching. But
I think
there's
1.0 is a 4.0 thing.
yeah, we'll see. It's the thing is with Maelstrom is a lot like resource management in that we're going to get Maelstrom for ships first, and then they have to also apply Maelstrom to everything. So environment, pieces of the environment and other stuff. Yeah,
I think we'll
that
get
stuff is
or I think Maelstrom props are already done. They could put the concrete barriers in 323, I think.
yeah, yes.
Like the system's there. So I think that's what I'm classifying as we'll have it by 4.0. It will be included in some way in the game in 4.0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the how much of the environment besides the ships is going to be maelstromed by 1.0, and hence the question mark. Because I think we're definitely going to have all the ships be maelstromed, and we'll have parts of environmental aspects. And we don't. That's the thing is they never in the presentation they didn't tell us how much of the environment they want to be destructible and what things are going to be destructible and what won't. And so we don't know what things will be made maelstrom and what things.
I don't think you're going to be going to ArcCorp and demolishing Area 18.
Yeah, exactly. But the outposts that they've created and derelict space. It's where do they draw the line? I think it's going to be really interesting. But it's also going to be a lot of work. But I think that the more important part is getting it in for ships so that it works alongside resource management.
Yeah.
So, but at what level of the game will be maelstromed, maelstrom apostrophe D, by 1.0, we don't know. But it's definitely a tech thing that will be introduced in the very near future. How far they take it between now and 1.0 remains to be seen. So gameplay, and this isn't an all-inclusive list, but this is really the gameplay mechanics and the professions. And I didn't re-include the things on here that were in that presentation, like and the things that are already in development. Like we're getting cargo missions this next in 323, so I didn't put that on here. But we don't have base building. That's gonna we know it's gonna be they're getting to work on it this year. But base building isn't a profession, but it's a gameplay mechanic that is they see as necessary for 1.0. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it could be end up being its own profession, but it's will there be base building missions? I don't know, maybe.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. You know,
Like
I
enough of us,
think that
hey, we actually like put our resources together to buy ourselves a new evaporation tower. We bought the resources. You just gotta come here and set it up.
Yep.
That would be so cool. I love that.
I think
idea.
that could be a post 1.0 thing that they include. But obviously, they
Oh,
talked
yeah,
about
for
crafting in
sure.
the CitizenCon presentation. Crafting is part of base building. You are crafting a base module,
If Morph
and
is
then
playing
things
this
in
game
it.
by the time 1.0 hits, I will be impressed.
Yeah.
Like, I know he likes the game. He does not love the game. And he says that, like, every other stream. I would like this man to be happy. He's done a lot for the community. Go play Space Engineers. Like,
And
he
stop
literally
making
had
stuff
this,
up.
like... Not gonna... Trying to be nice here. Trying to be nice. He made... When he made his Kraken in Space Engineers video, he was so gosh darn happy. And he said, I think the stream after, that his Space Engineers content is just not hitting as hard as his Star System content. So I'm forced to make Star System content. That's not how the internet works. You are a professional architect. You have enough income to not need YouTube. Please do what makes you happy and play some Space Engineers.
Yeah, mental health is far more important, for sure.
Yes.
Yes. We can only refine at stations. We can't do the refining ourselves. The reason refining hasn't gotten more work is because of resource management.
Yep.
Refining is just resource management in a specific location or ship. It is you taking a resource, you put it into this container with these other resources and put in some sort of input into the recipe system, which is what resource management is, and you get an output. That's all that refining is going to be. But we're going to need, I think that they're definitely going to need ship-based refining, and I would hope that we're going to have outpost location-based refining on the road to 1.0. You know, if they're building base building and we don't get a refinery module as part of base building before 1.0, I'll be disappointed.
So I just thought, which makes sense to me, that there will be probably a building or building module, however they want to build the system, to statically do anything a ship can do. We already have seen the mining towers, we've seen the medical building, so we know the stuff like that. What if there probably will be some sort of salvage building, kind of like the grinder wheels in the Reclaimer, which means you can use your SRV to pick up ships, go back to your base, and drop it in the grinder.
Makes
and then
sense
you
to
could
me.
use the RMC around the base.
And repair your ships when they come back and stuff. They've been talking about Bounty Hunter V2 every year for like the last 3 years. And that can just keeps getting kicked down the road. And so
why does it
this
keep
is
getting
something
kicked down the road, Tree?
because Bounty Hunter V2 is reliant on aspects of quantum that aren't the economy. There, quantum, and people think that quantum is just the economy. It is not. Quantum is the entire AI NPC simulation that runs in the background that feeds data to not only the economy but other services. You know, like the security service, like ATC, oh gosh, I'm brain farting. Anyway, without quantum, Bounty Hunter V2 really can't be a thing because it's really not going to. We'll get updated gameplay mechanics, like scanning and being able to do non-lethal takedowns and being able to secure people into the non-functional pods of the Hawk and what have you. But we won't get the systemic Bounty Hunter V2 that they've been trying to build for so long. They will get it done. We're going to get Bounty Hunter V2 in yeah, on the road to 1.0, just like we're going to get quantum on the road to 1.0. We just don't know when. Because this is a mechanic and a game. It's gameplay that
It's
Chris
foundational.
Roberts. It's foundational. It's something Chris Roberts loves. It's something he's talked about over and over again. He mentions it himself in basically every letter from the chairman for the last 3 years, except for this last one. Of
But
yeah,
this
we're
last
going
one
to be
had
working
some
on
specific things to cover, so it makes
yeah.
sense.
Farming is on the list partly because we're getting base building, and they showed the dang what are those towers called with the plants? The oh gosh, having a
Hydroponics?
stroke, Naz. Hydroponic towers. Yeah, the that's going to be farming. You're um, if you
They've
are
outlined. I don't know what video it was or what. No, I know it was a video. I don't know what video it was, but they've outlined what they had thought when we had the current outpost, and they thought that was going to turn into base building. What farming would be with the current little farm hexagons we have now. So
mhm,
they've been thinking about this a while, and it has always been attached to base building.
yep, and
Ship farming has always been like a haha farming on a ship.
it's really
It's
not that complex of a mechanic either. All I can think about is like, can I get can I use my tractor beam, but instead of tractor beaming individual radishes, can I hoover them up into a backpack?
and they said a little while ago, I forget, it was specifically about. No, I don't remember what it was specifically about. But it was casting a net tractor beam, and they said for physics reasons they aren't able to do that right now. I forget why exactly they said it, but tractor beams
Mm-hmm.
cannot do net stuff right now. There's some tech problem with net capturing multiple things in physics,
Yeah,
which I was most bummed about.
but that was in that 2016 presentation, which was really a road to release presentation, and they keep on showing farming stuff off and with base building as well as all the outposts that we see, and it's not just growing plants, it's livestock, and they're showing off the damn cows, and we're probably going to get the damn cows soon, amongst other things. If you end up using the two-handed cutting tool to butcher your cow or something barbaric like that, who knows? But I totally foresee that being part of the 1.0, the road to 1.0.
Or do it like 7 days and just do a knife.
Sure. Yep.
We have knives.
I'm just imagining squeamish people, and how gory did they get it?
I would love squeamish people to go look up a video of Red Dead Redemption skinning.
Yeah, no joke. And the noises almost make me nauseous.
Oh man, I would love to talk to or at least see a video on the Fully artists for Red Dead Redemption 2. Oh, that'd be great.
Yep. Yeah, socially confused. So farming and so many of these things are going to use the same code that resource management is built on. That's why when they say resource management is for everything, it is literally for everything. They're even going to apply the resource management system to your armor and spacesuits. There will be components in your armor and spacesuits. They will use resources. They've been talking about this for years, and Zach Priest just reiterated it in SCL, or was it ISC? I forget which one, recently. So,
I don't remember. However,
yeah.
if there is a system in any game anywhere that has an input and output, it is probably a reskin crafting system.
Yep.
Even XP for upgrades could be defined as a crafting system. You are doing something to input into a system to get an output. Everything's a crafting system.
It's all the same code. It just has to be they have to change the visuals for it and where the input output locations are, but under the hood, the code is basically the same. How many ticks does it take? Does it require not only a input of a resource, but also an input of of labor, or a number of ticks, a period of time, all these sorts of things.
I imagine so. And Walker said, "I really wish there were space station with domes like the Endeavor." The only reason we don't have farms on space stations is because they're not developed yet.
Yeah,
Space
it could be a
stations,
thing.
as Ben said, I believe it might have been Sysicon, might have been after Sysicon. Space stations are a ghost of what they will be. They will eventually have internal trams and districts.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get really big with gameplay. I imagine somewhere along the lines of building interiors coming in.
Yeah.
So
The
whether
reason that
it's an
space
internal
stations are so
farm,
limited right now is because of the lack of server meshing. And if you thought about how big the exterior of our space station is and how much of that interior space is taken up by what we use, they're going to be huge.
it's big. And whether we
But if
get
it,
actual
yeah,
biodomes or internal hydroponics or aquaponics or grow lights, whatever we end up with, that's mostly to do with the location science. Because the reason the Endeavor is the farming ship is the lore behind it is you can get exotic plants and then search out those exotic stars to feed that plant. I'm not sure how sun grown plants do on a space station that's probably spinning and orbiting a planet. I mean, I guess it'd be somewhere like planting on a moon. I'm not science. I don't know that one. What it'd be like to try and farm on a space station.
yeah.
Because even on the ISS, they do it with grow lights, not with putting potted plants in the window. Actually, that's geosynchronous, so it's always pointing the same way. I'm pretty
Well, I
sure
think
the
it's
Leos are
because
that
of
as well.
partly because of the radiation and the light. You'd have to have some sort of filtration system to protect them, because if the light is not coming through an atmosphere, it gets very dangerous and bad for you. It would probably get very dangerous and bad for the plants as well. So, um,
It,
my favorite.
but New Babbage does have a domed park. All of the Commons is a domed park.
Mhm. I imagine we'll see more, but it's the
Oh
same
yeah,
thing. Why are the landing zones so small? Because of lack of server meshing. It doesn't make sense to make them bigger and then fill them up with NPCs who don't, do anything but take up server resources when a player population is only 100. When the player population can go up, these cities will get bigger. That's why there's all those doors that you can't open and have like tape or whatever on them, because they are meant to go to other places so they can add more content later. But it didn't make
or
sense to
these
do it at
places
the
you're not
time.
allowed to go. Hacking.
Hmm.
Speaking of, you
Yeah.
don't have hacking on here.
So I didn't put hacking on here because they talked about hacking for 4.0. Remember?
Okay, I don't.
Yeah. Because I did think about it, and that'll be hacking tier 0.
So okay, so you don't think
So
we're gonna get the Legionnaire in 4.0?
no.
Okay,
I think if they were working on it, they would talk about it in the monthly report. But we'll see.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
We do
So
know it's
let's
coming
say
in the next 12 months, but
let's say hacking tier 1 at least for the Road to 1.0, because hacking tier 0, hacking was talked about in the last ISC of the year at the end of 2023. And Jared talked about hacking for, I think what he specifically talked about 4.0 and Pyro and server meshing. So
they also
my
talked about
personal
it
favorite
for DCs.
for what?
For DCs, distribution centers.
Oh yeah, yep, exactly. So my personal favorite is medical, because we are going to need a lot more medical gameplay and gameplay mechanics. Regeneration isn't regeneration right now; it's just a respawn mechanic, where there's no imprinting, there's no traumatic response echoes, there's no cost to
resource cost.
regeneration. Yeah, no resource cost. We're supposed to get a
Your
lot
your
more
Carrack
statuses.
at 890s will run out of biomaterial to respawn your character if you don't keep it filled.
I don't even think your Carrick and your 890 are going to be able to respawn. That's something that Paul and I are like, we butt heads on so much because he thinks that tier 2 beds should be able to regen, and I don't think they should at all. I think it's superfluous and unnecessary.
Well, considering they
But that's
want to
just me.
make the bed mechanic 10 times harder than it is already, it would make sense that the respawn is only at major locations,
Yeah.
specifically
And
not in Pyro.
well, and I think that it could be in Pyro at Ruin Station, and maybe they make it so, a couple of the other stations, that because there are Leo stations in Pyro, and I think it could make
But
it
the
so the
tech
Leo
is
stations have them.
new.
Oh, I know, but they could have gotten the jank version, but I wouldn't give it to every tier 2 bed because that just seems ridiculous. Because why? Because everybody's like, well, they said in the regen article that every lowly station has one. No, they say every lowly station has an imprint capable scanner. They don't say anything about regeneration.
Yeah, and scanning in
Imprinting,
is something very, very different.
yeah. Scanning and imprinting are a different mechanic. Yeah, you should absolutely be able to, update your imprint at any tier 2 bed. Totally on board with that, 100%. Because what they did with that technology is the equivalent of making a CT scanner as universal as it is right now. You can go in almost every rural hospital in the United States right now, and there will be a CT scanner there. Most every rural hospital.
It also makes
The
kind of like a what's it called, reinforced mechanic.
yeah,
If you and a buddy are going, let's say on a Carrick, you both put your imprints on the Carrick, so they're saved. You have a save point basically.
yeah, and you
But
can
one of
update
you
that save
die.
point
One
when
of
you're
you
out
gets
exploring.
one of you, right, and then one of you die while you're out in the field. The other one gets back to the Carrick. You can then take those imprints back to a hospital and say, "This is the version of the player I want."
And the big thing is you have to have regeneration be limited in order to make it be more consequential. It can't just be a cost. It has to be this is the hard reset. Not only is it going to cost you money, but it's going to reset you back to this main location or this location where it's very even more expensive to use it. So, because everybody's like, well, if it's only at landing zones, then there won't be enough of them. There's going to be NPCs flying around in Endeavors and,
Have you seen how big
Galaxies and
hospitals are?
Apollos. Yeah.
So,
You know,
M. Walker, if every Deep Space Explorer, Carrick Odyssey, has a respawn on it, what is the difference between deep space exploration and exploring right next to a station?
yeah. The exploration thing is, I'm sorry, is a garbage argument because exploration needs to have risk. And if you
Like
only
it,
regen because you suffered catastrophic death, okay, you need to have risk. Okay, do I do this thing that is very risky when I'm way out here in the middle of nowhere? And if I die, I'm going to respawn way back over here. That's the risk. If all you do is just
so
respawn here, there's not enough risk. For
I don't know how
it's no different
familiar
than real life. That's the
I
thing
don't know
is
how
everybody,
familiar anyone is with Dark Souls. There's a
yeah.
very specific vibe with the respawn mechanic that they're going for. It is specifically off of Dark Souls. They want the I saved a half an hour ago. I need to be incredibly careful kind of feel.
Yep. That's where
Specifically with far from home places. Specifically with places like Pyro, where they are fewer and far between and a lot more hostile.
That's why it makes so much sense that you can imprint at a tier 2 bed and keep that save updated if you want to, if you plan ahead. And even in with that tier 2 bed, you can still do a lot of healing, but tier 1 injuries and regen is the last resort. And so it encourages you to use that tier 2 bed and good decision making to prevent getting tier 1 injuries, to prevent having to end up dying and having to regen. But there has to be consequence, and there's not
I
enough
like Dell's
consequence if there's
comment.
what is it? There's how many stations are in Stanton now? Is that
A
20?
couple dozen?
Yeah, I think there's almost 2 dozen stations plus the landing zones. There's over 24 places you can respawn at right now, not including ships, and that's without NPCs.
Four
Even in Pyro,
planets plus 4 plus
Yeah.
4 times 5. Is there 5 Lagrange points for each planet?
yep. And I think every single one has, or most of them have a station now.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. I think that's all of them.
It's like
Somewhere around
24 to 30.
32, give or take.
Yeah.
Because there's the landing zone plus the Leos plus the 4 jump point stations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's
Plus 4 times 5 about Lagrange point stations.
yeah, there's no benefit to having tier 2 beds being able to regen. There's no benefit to it. And I think
Only
people
one
just
place that
forget
clears
that
No,
NPCs will be flying around in Apollos and Endeavors and Galaxies to provide that service to you, and you'll be like, that's something they've been talking about for years. Is if you, what we have right now where you bleed out and die is not what's intended. It's intended for you to be downed, and if somebody doesn't, revive, provide treatment to you, then you essentially go unconscious and you would wake up in a bed and be not regenerated but have been rescued by an NPC. And that's how the mechanic's supposed to work. The only way you die is if you suffer catastrophic death, and that's the part that people don't understand is that, oh, okay, well, I'm going to get downed and bleed out over 2 minutes, and then every time that happens, I'm going to die. No, the whole point of the bleed out mechanic isn't supposed to be death. It's supposed to be you go unconscious, and then you wake up in a hospital bed somewhere because a NPC came and rescued you, but you didn't die. The only way that regen is only supposed to occur with catastrophic death, and that's the way it's always supposed to be have been before regen was even had a name. This is something that Chris Robertson and Richard Tyler talked about in 2019, and even Death of a Spaceman before that.
Yeah, catastrophic like your ship blowing up. So now think of, with all that what you just said, how often your ship's going to be blowing up. Not very often.
Yeah, catastrophic death is meant to be rare.
Yeah. So a lot of the features that we went through, that Tree's gone through so far, have implications on making your ship less explodey.
And making you less explodey as well.
Yes.
And what we're getting right now with the FPS changes in terms of the time to kill changes for FPS. That's part of the direction that we're going at. So, and this is something that Richard Tyler specifically talked about. They want you to there's going to be escalation of injuries because you take a few hits and it takes a few hits to get through your armor, and then you get a tier 3 injury, and then you take a few more hits in that same location, and then you get a tier 2 injury. Well, this whole escalation of taking injuries is encouraging you to stop what you're doing, go get healed, or get treatment or whatever, to plan ahead rather than just keep on going until you die.
Yeah. Many people don't know this, and it's going to be us two and Paul have known this is coming for a while. There's a reckoning coming for the Star Citizen community. Star Citizen is actually a brutal game.
Yeah.
It is going to be difficult. It is going to be dangerous.
And the scale of that difficulty will be based off of where you are. If you are
Stanton's the safest option, and it's still going to be quite difficult.
Yeah.
Because, like, the difficulty of even Ninetales. Ninetales is like a dime for, like, 200 of them, right? When you say, hey, if you respawn, you're going to lose a limb, and if you lose 4 limbs, your character is dead. And you lose 10% of everything you own. Crap's going to get real.
Mm-hmm. Oops. All right. So that was a tangent about medical, but I can't not go on that tangent whenever I see it. Personnel transport. They've been talking about personnel transport missions and wanting to get back to that for a long time. but that is a profession. We have multiple ships that have been developed for that. There is going to we have every station and every landing zone has a place where you go to get transported, where NPCs will go to get transported. There's a lore. Crusader owns a space airline. They bought the station that is in orbit above Sherman on Cascom in the Castro system because they use it as one of their major hubs for their space airline. It's in the lore. So that's
Is that Meridian?
What's that?
Is that Meridian?
Oh, I don't know if it has
Meridian
a name
Transport?
or not. I don't know. I'd have to look.
It's on all the
I just
logos.
remember
Meridian is the one that's on everything.
Yeah, if you go and this is old Castro lore. So if you go and look at that, they talk about it. But that's going to be a career and a gameplay mechanic, not only for you doing the personnel transport, but you being able to be transported. You going up and showing up there, and then okay, I pay for my ticket. You hop in your ship, and then you wake up in a different system, different location. Exploration and discovery. We know that there's going to be the ability to scan and find things. There's going to be a lot of that is blocked by us getting the new star map and features getting added to it. But with new star systems and new locations, we're going to have both FPS and ship-based exploration and scanning and discovery and being able to utilize that information for your own game. Like Naz was talking about with science and research, no idea how that's going to work. I haven't the foggiest idea. Maybe it'll have some sort of resource management built into it where it's recipes. I don't know. I'm not sure how they're going to go with that. They haven't talked about it in ages.
It's not Meridian.
Yeah.
Meridian is
we talked about
its own company that apparently has a lot of places to Xi'an name here. That used to be a military outpost against the UE. But they do they're only just a Starliner fleet.
Okay. We talked briefly about hacking. We should see the first implementation of hacking this year, but they'll continue to expand on that. And then I separated features just because it's not really necessarily gameplay, but it's features for the game that are tied into that. And so the organization system is something they talked about in the road to release. Oh, here we go. Where's that image? Here we go. This is the last slide for the road to release presentation from CitizenCon 2018. So the org system, full persistence, and server meshing. We are here. We're about to take this step over to here.
Well, we're there minus the organization system.
Yeah, but that's the thing is we have this. We're about to have this. We only have the website-based organization system. We have none of the features that go with this that tie into the game. So
I really, really need stupid org wallets and org fleets. It is
right. Yeah. Everything
so
that
we currently have
your guild systems for every MMO
has an alt account now specifically to act as the bank. The org wallet is another character currently. And so only one person can log on.
Do you put the UEC in his prison wallet or
no? Should I be? Anyway.
Sorry, I had to.
So all the org sends their profits to alt account wallet, and then payroll is done with that wallet. So somebody has to log in and pay out to all the members.
Oh God.
Yeah. So all the executives, which will have access to the org wallet eventually, aren't able to all have their ready hands on. Said they have to log out and log into that character, and then ships. We can't say, hey, who needs access to ships for this event? We have to go and spawn it ourselves and have all the problems of trying to spawn. And then we have to go into the ship to open the hangar because not owners of the hangar can't, or not owners of the ship can't open the hangar first. Just give us org wallets and stuff, please.
Yeah. There's a whole series of org-based permission sharing type systems that have to come in and not only be in the game but also be cross-coordinated with the website. So that way you're not having to go into the game to add people to your org and do all that. There's some things that will probably have to be in game, but there's a lot of that stuff that really should be external, but it all needs to connect. And so that's a big hurdle for them because the org system is old. So that's a huge, to me, that's probably one of the bigger features and a really big quality of life thing when it comes to multiplayer co-op type gaming. Oh God, nope, we're not going there. Nope. We talked briefly about quantum. Nazeris and I have talked about quantum multiple times on the podcast. Very interested in quantum, but quantum is really going to be something we need for 1.0 to give them that experience that they're talking about that they want for 1.0. They're really going to have to get quantum well integrated into the game and meaningful, especially with dynamic server meshing and the ability for quantum to alter the probability volumes, and the amount of NPC interaction we'll have in a lot of systems will absolutely skyrocket. Because right now the probability volumes are dialed way back because they spawn NPCs that have to use essentially a lot of subsumption logic, and they're costly. And so we need to be able to dial that up in order to make the universe feel more alive, but we can't do that until we have dynamic server meshing that can handle those NPC populations.
Oh boy, I just realized we still have the roadmaps to go.
Yep, it's a long one, but we'll burn through the roadmaps pretty quickly. We'll just have to avoid tangents. Location-based resource management. Yeah. We're getting resource management for testing on ships in Arena Commander in 323. That's what they're looking at right now. And they're talking about releasing it with 4.0 on ships. But resource management is tied to everything. So they're going to have to go in and build the resource management system into every location. Your landing zones, your space stations, your asteroid facilities, your UGFs, distribution centers, the outposts, the bases that we can build. All of that is going to have resource management to some extent and gameplay that goes with it. The resource management also is going to be built into armor and suits, and I think that is a core part of the 1.0 experience.
Yep, I agree.
Having that added afterwards.
No, I think armor suits, the vision for armor suits, specifically personal armor, and the whole resource management and armor system in general, which could also be in feature, the ship armor system, but also the personal armor system. I think what they've been talking about with it using resource management and it being very specific, and the stuff they talked about at CitizenCon with it being profession and what was the other axis they talked about? It's what you're doing, and I forget what the other axis was. I forget what it was. So like there's a medical armor, but there's like a light, medium, heavy armor. So I guess there's tier and profession.
Mm-hmm.
I think both of those, or all three of those, will be in before 1.0. It doesn't make any sense for them to put in more armored features post 1.0 because they all build off of the set of features. It's feature complete.
Yeah. And they don't want new players to come in and get used to playing a game and then have it dramatically change after 1.0. Yeah. They'll make they'll make additions and updates and things that add on to the foundation of all these features that's been developed, but they don't want to make dramatic sweeping changes to an established player base. And everybody's, because that's the thing is, it isn't, we're not the we're only a portion of the target audience. The target audience is much larger. So, lastly, and I apologize because I know Naz and I have both heard it a million times. A lot of people have, but locations I want to say it's in this presentation somewhere. What if let's see, 10. Um,
Let's see if I can find it. You keep going.
yeah, it's been said somewhere and I just forget where, but Chris Roberts said at release they want to have 5 to 10 star systems in. So everybody's like, oh my god, they're just now adding Pyro, and it'll take them forever to build that many star systems. Building star systems is not hard for them. Filling them with content has been the difficult problem, and now that we're getting past the hurdle of server meshing, they can unleash the tools that they have to build star systems quite quickly, and they're going to continue to work on those star systems. Hence the Planet Tech V5 that they talked about essentially at CitizenCon, the using algorithmic AI and algorithms in order to generate more realistic planets and build star systems that way. So after Pyro, they're really going to need to work on getting the next several star systems in to the game rather quickly to be ready for release. We know that they have already gotten back to work on building interiors now that UGFs are coming in 323. They talked about how building interiors were paused while they were working on UGFs. But now that server meshing we're going to be getting static soon. We're going to need dynamic server meshing for building interiors to be able to scale up populations in landing zones. But
Specifically to have the interiors not have to have effect or performance problems on the farther away places.
Yeah, they can make a building stream in on a new server at any time, essentially with dynamic server meshing. Especially if it's going to be full of NPCs and multiple players and such. But that's definitely going to be a 1.0 release. And then something that I've been interested in for a long time. It's on the roadmap. Something they did a bunch of work on. Asteroid facilities, and I think asteroid facilities really are probably one of the last major location types that are going to be added. There's going to be more, but in terms of major locations, we're talking about building interiors, outposts, distribution centers, UGS, whatever you want to call them, landing zones, space stations, and then asteroid facilities. The sort of like 5 main types of locations we'll be visiting in order to really have that sort of very fleshed out universe in terms of gameplay, features, locations, and technology to get that very complete experience. But yeah. So that's it for what might 1.0 look like. I'm going to change screens really quick, and we're going to open up the roadmaps, and we'll burn through the 4 roadmap roundups we've had so far this year. Look at the content that's being planned for 323. And then we will call it a night. Thanks for sticking with us. This is a long episode, but we've been trying to get this done for a while and a lot to talk about. So
yeah, I think the 5 to 10 was actually before this, because I think they specifically say we don't know. This is a feature-based talk. We don't know how many we're going to have at the time of these features completing. I think that was specifically what they said in this one. But I will go rewatch that tomorrow probably. All right, where is Mr. OneNote? Roadmaps. Open all the bits.
okay. All right, then got those open, and now we switch back.
Ouch. Are we gonna do 1 over 1?
Sure. Why don't you? I'm gonna go grab one more beer and close the windows because it's cold in here now. Why don't you get started? Don't need to read every preamble or whatever you want to call it. You can just read this first one, and I'll let you get started on this, and I'll pick up where you are when I get back with the beer.
Grab. after my sneeze happens. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Every 2 weeks, we accompany the roadmap update with a brief explanatory note to give you insight into the decision-making that led to any changes. This is part of an effort to make our communications more transparent, more specific, and more insightful for all of you who help make Star Citizen and Squad 42 possible. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into this week's Roadmap Roundup, Strategy Community. So I believe it is the same for literally all of them. It is indeed. Yep, that is the same. So I just call it the standard intro when I do that. All right. So, notable changes for February 7th, 2024. Replication layer update. Testing continues for this important update to the Persistent Universe's backend database. This release will remain fluid in regards to timing as edge cases are solved and performance is optimized. With this published, we are moving this card to the Alpha 323 column, but keep an eye on Spectrum and the tech preview channel for the layers on the replication layer. This was back on February 2nd or February 7th. This may be confirmed currently. I don't know yet. We'll see how it progresses for the next 8 weeks. The following cards have been added to the release view, targeting a release in 322 patch cycle. Arena Commander Gravlev Racing, including a new experimental mode to Arena Commander featuring Gravlev vehicles racing through 5 new maps: the Snake Pit Reversed, Cleo Islands, River's Edge, and Shifting Sands. The following cards have been added to the release view in the 323 patch cycle, currently targeting a April 2024 release. Star Map Rework, implementing the new and improved Star Map with improved visuals, usability, including easier search and trip planning functionality. Mobiglass Rework, reworking the Mobiglass system to use building blocks, which will allow for easier development of Mobiglass apps. This update includes reworked home map, content manager, and journal apps. FPS map system, implementing a mini-map for the HUD as well as interior maps for FPS gameplay, helping players stay oriented in close quarters encounters. Personal and instance hangars, creating new tech that creates an instance of player's hangar to allow for uninterrupted management of cargo inventory and vehicles. Personal hangars are found at the player's home location and will allow for customization for organization and the hangar interior. I wonder if that means paint. Freight elevators, implementation of the system and content for players to physically load and unload cargo to and from their ship by conveying cargo to and from hangars, landing pads, garages, and docking collars. I didn't think of docking collars. That'll be really cool. Item bank and unique item recovery. I believe unique item recovery is actually out of 323. Adding item bank kiosks to the Persistent Universe, allowing players to retrieve and store FPS items at multiple locations. This addition will allow players to retrieve lost account-bound items, such as subscriber flare. I'm pretty sure that last sentence is the thing that will not be coming in 323. But we will see in further things. New mission, cargo hauling. Making use of the freight elevator feature, this mission type will have players hauling large quantities of cargo to earn both UEC and reputation. Dynamic crosshair.
So before you continue,
Yes.
I did remember they said the map system, we're not getting... Didn't they say that we weren't getting we're not getting the local map? You get your FPS
No, they
mini
said
map,
that not everywhere will have a local map.
There we go. That's what it was. Thank you. And then...
The FPS map's still there.
Yeah, FPS map is still there, but not every ship and not every location, but the rest of them will be added in subsequent patches. Yeah.
Like, don't expect every outpost to have its fully fleshed out version yet, because there's a lot of them.
And so
and,
I need
a lot
to...
of the wishlist crypt and a lot of the named locations are bespoke. They're not part of a dynamic system. Like, you can do every outpost, like all the normal
everything with a pad.
Outposts. I'm talking specifically like the art style. Everything that shares an art style basically has some relation to each other. So you say that's a door. Well, if you see that door anywhere else, the mapping system knows what that door is now.
Oh,
If
yeah.
it
Sorry,
if
I
it's built
got
out.
started thinking about freight elevators. Yeah. So the question I need to go back and look at the docking collars, because my question is, do they mean the external freight elevators, like for unloading a whole sea at a docking collar, or
No, I think they
are they
mean
talking
while you're
about
in the room where you go to the docking
yeah
collar,
the
there'll be a
waiting
freight elevator
foyer?
there so you can load stuff onto your ship.
Yeah, because there is, and it's been a while since I went and looked at it, and I looked at some of the concept or the art when they first added it, and I'm pretty sure it's already there. They just have to like animate it, but they're you're going to be able to pull certain size containers there and then take them through the docking collar. Yeah, and
I mean, there's
that's
also the security room that they showed right off a docking
mhm,
collar that's
yeah,
not there currently.
yep,
So, also, yeah, that's Bounty Hunting V2. I forgot about that for a second.
hmm
When are we going to see that come back? Probably sometime this year.
yeah, because
Uh,
that's something I'm interested in. Is like instead of landing in a hangar, you just dock and you go up to the freight elevator and you pull a few specific crates, your mission box or whatever, and you run back out to the docking collar, and then you go leave.
Yep. Okay, so dynamic crosshair. Combat helmets now support the dynamic crosshair, which allows for quicker targeting acquisition in close quarter situations.
Emphasis on
Based,
combat helmets.
yes, you have to be wearing a specific helmet, and a lot of people are weird about this, but like it just shoots where the gun's pointing
Hmm.
instead of it being off in the way that it like. With some games, they have it just kind of planted in the middle of your screen. Doesn't matter where your gun's pointing. Yeah, no dynamic crosshair on backhands.
Yeah,
So this
I'll
just
keep reading
points where the
from
gun's
here.
actually pointing.
Hmm.
Oh, I thought we were gonna do report over report, but okay.
Oh, I thought when you said that, I thought you meant talking about like individual items.
No, I meant because we have 4 of them, so we'd each get 2.
Okay, yeah, if you want to keep doing that, that's fine.
All right, EVA
I'll
tier 2
just
or T2.
sit here and drink beer.
That's fine. Yeah, enjoy. Improved EVA controls and animation for smoother traversal in 0G. Later iterations will include limited EVA fuel and encourage the use of 0G push-pull, the multi-tool the multi-tool tractor beam. So in
I
this
can't
first
wait for
release, we did
that.
not have jetpacks or EVA fuel,
And we're also not getting 0G push pull. That is a
and there,
separate
yeah,
feature. Yeah, that still has to be integrated. I'm
yeah,
hoping
that's
that
more
that'll be
the
in for
more the
4.0.
animation guys, less than the these guys.
Hmm. Yeah, because I am my preferred. When I'm doing my solo gameplay, solo gameplay for me is my chosen gameplay is ruck diving, and so I cannot wait for the full implementation of EVA and all that traversal to go wreck diving looking for, even though a lot of the missions are borked, I can't wait for those missions to get better and refactored, and to be able to 0G traverse a wreck or a derelict station or asteroid facility in search of something, anything,
Yeah,
and picking up little bits of, ooh, oh, shiny, take this for myself
yeah.
along the
It'll
way.
be really nice to find a wreck to go scout it in 0G and to see if it's not salvageable but fixable. And
Oh yeah,
bringing it from that husk in the middle of nowhere and having to EVA around it to figuring out how to get the lights and the gravity on. That is like peak salvage kind of gameplay for me.
mm-hmm. Yeah. If you
Uh,
go in there and you're like, okay, to what extent can I um, do a few things to get power going and reroute it to these areas or something like that,
mm-hmm.
and maybe you can't get it all the way back up, but you can get the ship partly running and maybe isolate a few rooms, turn the atmosphere back on, make a comms
Yep.
call, and somebody comes and assists you with the rest of the work, blah blah blah, like, yeah. Or
Yeah,
better yet,
that's
as much as I love the medical aspect of rescue, and this is something I like, everybody thinks about the Legionnaire just for boarding and killing bad guys. What about
mm-hmm.
using the Legionnaire for rescue and repair? Because you've got
That
those
makes
big
sense.
old tool lockers You can board a ship, and seal, lock on to the airlock and go in there, and then you can go in and you can find people who are injured and need help and help them get their ship patched up. To me, that's like a, a,
And
a
also, you can use hacking as a diagnostic tool.
yeah. The files are in the computer, but bang on the screen. Hacking and percussive maintenance.
Yeah. All right. FPS loot screen. Introducing a new screen for looting critical items quickly, allowing for more reliable inventory management in tense situations.
Yes.
Reliable and faster. New character customizer.
And it looks good.
It looks okay.
I like it.
I'm not sold.
Oh man,
I'm not
I think it
sold
looks
yet.
good.
I'm just not sold yet. I think it, like I said, I think it looks okay. I'm just not sold. I
Is
have to use
the
it first.
reloading part of that? Is that within the same family, or is that a separate thing?
No,
I forget if it's in one of these other
that's
ones.
Pipus. That's Pipus.
Okay.
Yeah, that's completely a Pipus thing.
Okay.
New character customizer, implementing an overhaul of the player character creator for Star Citizen, including a new user interface and additional customization options. Woot everything that they're adding.
Gib tattoos.
Visor and what?
Gib tattoos and beards.
I thought you said pets. I'm like, yes, we need pets.
That too. Yes, I
Where's
need.
my space puppy?
Yep, space puppy and or like a lizard that lives in my giant ZZ Top beard and.
I would love to have both a space cat that just kind of like sits around your ship, staring at you,
Mm-hmm.
and hisses at anyone new on ship, and a dog that is like a space dog that just is just so happy just all the time.
Yeah. What's the name of the cat from Star Wars Rebels? The Loth cat. I want a Loth cat.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a new cat puppy thing for Star Wars Eclipse.
Oh.
Kind of like a dog cat axolotl fuzzy thing. He looks adorable. I cannot wait. Visor and lens HUD rework, converting the visor and lens system to building blocks for improved performance and flexibility. Distribution centers, creating traversable areas offering gameplay opportunities in corporate industrial environments. This initial release includes the surface level of the facilities, with underground areas coming in a later update.
Really
Rip
excited about the
underground
underground areas, but
I think it's
the
funny.
surface is huge.
Yeah, I think it's funny that like, hey, these are new underground facilities. They're not coming with underground areas. Like, I get it, but sads.
How many did they say? 12?
20.
Right?
20?
No, it wasn't 20. Was it? I thought it was 12. I'll have to go back and watch that ISC.
Yeah. 20 is the number that got stuck in my head. So
I mean, it's a goodly number. It's more new distribution centers than we got in the second
Caves?
round of the derelict outposts or derelict settlements, which is pretty impressive.
It just depends on what their plan is with them.
Mm-hmm.
And are they designing for 1.0?
Yeah.
Is this the 2020 of Stanton?
Mm-hmm.
Not the 20 of 3.23.
I just can't wait to see what the subsurface aspects look like
And how extensive are they? That's my thing. I don't want it to be
I want them
like
big, but I
like
want them to
landing zones
sometimes
are
tie
now.
into caves for alternate entrances and also for mining. Because I want to be able to go down on a rock and go out into a deep cave network and mine, and then bring it back. I want that type of mining jobs where you don't need a ship, but you're not just hand mining for your own. You're mining for that corporation in their facility, the cave network.
Shubin mining, a live Shubin mining thing.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I want that.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Yep. Yeah. Let's see. Dynamic event blockator. Introducing a new dynamic event that involves a criminal faction, Ninetales, locking down an Leo L1 and 2. Gosh dang it. locking down and Leo and L1/L2 rest stops. Players must run the blockade and purchase and sell a percentage of Quantanium before time runs out. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be A Leo and L1 and L2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Reputation hostility. Updating the reputation system so that players can affect their long-term reputation with in-game organizations via means outside of missions, such as reduction of reputation for killing a member of that faction. AI belonging to certain factions will react differently, or sorry, that's not a lead on. AI belonging to certain factions will react differently based on their reputation with you. Being an ally provides players with benefits such as more generous friendly fire thresholds and providing medical aid. Woot! AI's being aidable. Sure. Being an enemy will mean harsher friendly fire thresholds and may result in an attack on site. That's the spirit. Lawful
I can't
organizations will
wait
not
to
attack on site.
see if some of those missions where you have friendly NPCs working with you, I can't wait to have one of them med pen me.
Yeah.
That will be such a
Yes.
huge
Like-
in-game milestone.
A lot of people they're making very anti single player stuff. That's a big for single player stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like that makes the game a lot more single playerable.
Yeah, and instead of
So-
trying to solo these missions, pick missions where there's going to be other allied NPCs, and go work with them and
Yep.
get the job done.
It's also a big step towards NPC group.
Mm-hmm.
Lawful organizations will not attack on site as long as they're in a monitored zone, whereas unlawful factions will attack on site no matter what. This is the foundation which allows players to become allies in the world or within world criminal factions and enables places like Grimhex to enforce their own law.
Yay! No more. Get rid of the whatchamacallit, the
Armistice zones?
armistice in Grimhex.
Or literally
'Cause-
all of them. Let us clean up the space around our Leo stations for salvage. Just
Yeah.
let us do it. Player interaction system. Implementing the updated player interaction experience, a holistic array of complementary features and systems, all related directly to the player status, item status, environment status, as well as interactions with both the game world and objects within it are covered under these systems. So backpack reloading, the new reloading system, pooling of ammo, the new player interaction wheel, choosing your primary and secondary thing. Like there's a ton of stuff in here. Like
Yeah.
this, if these paragraphs were indicative of what was in these features, the player interaction experience would be 5 times as big as the reputation hostility paragraph.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's huge.
If they denoted each thing, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And finally, master modes. Implementing new master modes to vehicles to manage their speed, component, and role-specific functions. This release includes the nav and SCM modes, as well as a complete retuning of all ships. So we know that all ships are being put into a archetype, and then will be tuned out of them. We don't know if all of them will be tuned by this release, and it will probably not be all of them tuned. However, I believe all of them are currently tuned to their archetype. But archetypes are very basic tunings. They really are not indicative of their final form.
Yep.
So even though Merlin and that's right. The Fury and the Arrow and the Gladius are all light fighters. The Fury is going to run circles around both the Arrow and the Gladius because that's what's meant to do. So it's some of the ships are very far off their archetype tuning, which is good. It means stuff. They're not stopping at archetypes. That's where they're not removing uniqueness from ships. That was a thing that went around when they started talking about archetypes. That's not a thing. Archetype is
each
just
ship
a
will be
starting location.
tuned within its archetype. Yeah. Yeah, it's a
All right.
base point. That's it
And
for
as a
the
final
February.
note,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
and as a final note, that's all for this week. No progress tracker updates, and this will be a theme. They say continue on long-term planning. That they mean, because this one came out before the letter from the chairman, that long-term planning is we haven't had a progress tracker update all year because they are working on validating, is what they said, what Chris said in the letter from the chairman, validating the roadmap all the way to 1.0.
Yep.
So that is it for the February 7th report. So to you for the February 21st report.
All right. So the February 21st report, release view, freight elevators and update. As work has progressed on freight elevators, the team has recognized that additional feature work is required to implement summoning vehicles via your hangar. As a result, this specific mechanic will likely come at a later date. Freight elevators and their other related functionalities are still on track for Alpha 323. So what happened with this?
So you can no longer call vehicles through the elevator, the freight elevator specifically.
Mhm.
But you will be able to call them through the ASOF terminal and have them come up through the floor, right? The big ship elevator in the middle of the hangar.
Yeah, so you can call
And then
ships.
drive
just
that
not-
vehicle off to the side and then pull another ship out and then put that vehicle inside the ship. With persistent
okay.
hangars, that means you can just spawn all your vehicles, put them to the side, and then load the ones up you want to.
Mhm.
I really
Hey,
hope
have
they
a good
do
night,
give
White Crab Tube.
plenty.
Thanks for coming and hanging out.
Bye.
This will be
I
up
really
on
hope
my
they give
YouTube in
a-
segments over the next week or so. So check it out.
I do hope they give plenty of buffer space between the walls and that elevator, so you can really pile up stuff around the edges.
Mm-hmm.
That-
Well,
that is my-
especially the large and the extra large ones are going to be real.
oh, for
big.
sure.
Yeah.
Like I want a extra large ship just so I can have the hangar, just for the hangar. So I'll be like trying to get that as soon as possible.
So at least there's a workaround. So that's good. It's not as efficient, but it's still a whole lot better than having to go to an outpost and using one of the pads. Arena Commander, custom lobbies. So the following cards have been added to the release view, targeting an Alpha 323 release window. So more additions. After this giant opening release view of February 7th, we've got more additions for Arena Commander. Custom lobbies. Custom lobbies, previously referred to as, private matches, makes their return to Arena Commander. Utilizing the new front end and lobby systems, custom lobbies allow players to set up and play matches for any game modes on any map at any time with their own rules. Arena Commander Grav Royale. Embark on high-speed mayhem in a thrilling new game mode, Grav Royale. Engage in intense vehicular combat across diverse maps, mastering your Gravlev vehicles to outmaneuver foes and seize victory in this gravity-defying battle arena. So, new Gravlev vehicle that they showed up, that they teased.
Yeah.
Arena Commander Engineering Experimental Mode. 3 limited test experimental modes featuring the engineering gameplay, also referred to as Resource Network and Resource Management, showcased at CitizenCon 2953. Help shape the future of engineering gameplay in Star Citizen by testing and giving feedback to the features and balance showcased in this limited test before it hits the PU. Can't wait.
Now, something that struck me as interesting for this one: 3 test modes, or 3 different experimental modes featuring engineering.
Oh, I did not hear that.
It says 3 limited
Oh,
test
yeah,
experimental modes featuring engineering.
But they don't say what they are.
They definitely don't. And like, just
And I
as a,
haven't
like
seen-
a quick derail, what do you think they could be that there's 3 different experimental modes? Because it's obviously not just free play and you pick your own ship and you like play with the resource network. Okay, well, maybe it is different modes that we have. Maybe one of them's free fly, one of them's an assault mission, specifically to test what we saw at CitizenCon.
I would say a fun one would be to that there's a time and it gives you a random thing to achieve within that time. Otherwise, ship blow up or ship goes disabled or something like that. But then
That'd be
also
interesting.
um, Hammerhead
You know, I thought of though.
and the Vandal Swarm.
Did they
Keep
say
Hammerhead up as long as
specifically?
possible.
Did they say specifically that this is not for locations?
Mm,
Because turning on a station would be definitely a thing.
yeah, I don't think they're gonna. The way they talked about it at CitizenCon, I'm pretty sure that we are not to the point where locations are going to be
Okay.
ready, and they didn't show any of that because they've
Gotcha.
been. And this is one of the things we picked up on last year via the monthly reports. They're very vague about saying, we're continuing to work on the resource management system for ships, and basically, like I tweeted about it, and Jake was the first person to like it. Um, and basically, that just all but confirmed that they were getting all the ships ready for resource management. And they
Okay.
did say that they uh, all the goal was to have every ship have resource management in three when it releases.
Okay.
So they
Okay.
might not have every ship have it in 323 when we're testing it, but when it releases in 4.0, every ship should have. That's why they specifically mentioned the freelancer getting its pass to get the components and such. So every ship should have its components and have resource management added. It won't be a stepwise system where ships just get left to ripen on the vine forever.
Yep. And something I'd like to mention, just because I voice. Apparently, I have no voice anymore. Um, Something I'd like to mention every time we talk about Arena Commander, just in case eventually somebody hears me. I would love an Arena Commander mode for each profession, so you can test and train new players, specifically new org members, to do a certain task. Would love an Arena Commander mode for all of those. Just
Mm-hmm.
training facilities, kind of thing.
Oh, that's a great idea. So Iodin, you make a good point though. They can use Arena Commander and an experimental mode when they add resource management to locations. They can with the new the streaming that they've added to Arena Commander. They can bring in any location from the PU to make it a map in Arena Commander to then use for us to test in experimental modes. So they could totally set up um, a map of a station and make it so that way you have to repair the station, essentially get it back up to function in a certain amount of time as a test.
You know how Arena Commander is specifically a video game within Star Citizen? Yes, no?
I'm sorry, what?
You know how Arena Commander is specifically a video game within Star Citizen?
Yep.
They could do a creative mode base building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They could add
That
that.
would be so good to like test out different base configurations. Or just to
Mhm.
like, heck, just have fun base building and walking around it.
Yep. Oh man,
CIG.
I dig it.
That'd be really nice. Yeah. Even if it was like more like RTS-y, like there was like that'd be so cool. An RTS base building. That would be so cool. I'm thinking of so many game modes right now. Okay, moving on.
Arena Commander, new flight map, Miner's Lament. Miner's Lament, previously exclusive to racing and part of the Master Modes test, now opens its treacherous asteroid-laden expanse to all flight modes. Dogfight in the chaotic beauty of Yellow's Ring for an intense, dangerous, close quarters showdown. Very cool. All right, back to you for the March 6th Roadmap Roundup.
All right. Ah, yes, the nice one. The following cards have been added to the release view targeting 323 release window. Image upscaling. Implementing support for
Woot.
GPU upscaling, including DLSS, FSR, and an in-house TSR solution. A volumetric
I wasn't
cloud
expecting
update.
that this quickly, honestly.
Nope. Yeah, it's good. And I imagine 4.0 for sure is going to have Vulkan and possibly even ray tracing.
That's what
I-
it seemed
I
like
think
to me.
GI
At least
yeah.
Vulcan. Yeah.
Yeah, I think GI might make it though. Finally, volumetric cloud update. Updating Star Citizen's volumetric cloud technology to improve overall visual quality, including the addition of both volumetric shadows as well as the implementation of ground fog that we missed in 322. I
Yep.
wonder if I keep asking this and I keep assuming that they said it, that the ghosting is going away with image upscaling.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
really-
if you
I
look at
really
the
want
leaks,
ghosting.
it looks like it. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah.
I haven't looked at leaks. I don't look at leaks because I think if I'm this far into Star Citizen, if I've been here for 10 years now, about 10 years at the end of this year, then I'll be on CRG's side for this. I don't do leaks. So then it's back to you for our final one, March 20th, 2024.
Alrighty. And so we don't have another one until next Wednesday, not tomorrow.
Correct.
Okay. So,
Got
notable
time,
changes for March 20th, 2024, and we'll be all caught up. Release view, unique item recovery. So, this is the second item that got a little bit of a ding, but I think it's pretty fair considering how many things have been added. It's like, yeah, if you only, had a small change to 2 items, out of all of those, it's like that's a pretty good, that's a pretty good ratio. Unique item recovery. After careful review, our team has concluded that this feature would benefit from additional development time. Therefore, we're updating its card on release view accordingly. We expect this feature to return to the roadmap very soon, and in the meantime, item banks remain on track for Alpha 323 and will remain in place. So we'll still be able to use the item banks. That hasn't changed, but in terms of recovering unique items, that still needs a little bit of work.
Which means
The
my Argo backpack stays in the hangar.
Yep. The following features have passed their final review. Therefore, we are changing their status to committed on release view for the Alpha 323 update. And this is essentially saying that
They
they're
used to say
going from
changing its color
70%
blue.
to 90. Yeah.
They used to say we're changing the color to blue. I don't know them saying that.
So the character customizer has finished its final review, as well as reputation hostility, the dynamic crosshair, and then they added the F7C Mark II to the release view. And I would assume. Oh, did they? Yeah.
Pretty sure it was 322.
Well, let's look.
Because it's out. Yeah, 322. Yep.
Yep, there it is. Okay. And so we can see on the, here, we'll get rid of this and this. And we can see that there's only the one committed item under weapons and items, the dynamic crosshair, and the character customizer. But God, look at all that gameplay
Look
being
at all
added.
those chickens.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, reputation hostility is also committed.
Yep.
And then, yep. So it'll be interesting to see how these things, how many get committed and what the final tally ends up being. We're at the very end of March and they're targeting April. So it's going to be the other thing that they mentioned as far as Evo testing is this next Evo test. It didn't make it for today, but they're targeting again soon. Is basically going to have everything in it. So all the features from the different branches combined into one. So basically a full 323 build. So what's in that is probably going to be the final list of things. So we will keep our fingers crossed to see how that pans out and what the full feature list ends up being. But I am I've only been playing sporadically over the last year. With 323 coming in, my Star Citizen gameplay time of what little game time I get to play games is going to go up dramatically. So
Rip Helldiver's population.
yeah, rip Helldivers. As much as I love Helldivers,
There are so many
much of
Star Citizen
this.
people just like, I'm sorry, they have freight elevators now. I gotta go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I love Helldivers, but it's not going to hold a candle to 323, and really every patch for the rest of this year is what it's looking like.
You know what's wild to me is that whatever doesn't make it in 323 and the additional features anyway, there is plenty of stuff to make a 324 patch, even though they're not planning on doing a 324 patch. Like, there is plenty. And yet they're going to say, no, 4.0's next. Just like the monumental change that 318 was. The bucket of content that is 323 are both like half sized compared to all the junk that's coming in 4.0. I don't know how they're gonna top that with 4.1.
It's going to be interesting. So, like, say at the end of this year, to look at everything from CitizenCon and see the breakdown of how it was integrated. What was 323, what was 4.0, what was 4.1. How it
When do
all
we get Space
came
Cows?
into play. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and switch screens.
Woot, we did it.
We did it. Probably one of our longest shows ever, but basically it's
Four hours.
Roadmap Roundups and 2 essentially Spectrum Pulses, or a Spectrum Pulse, all in one episode. That's a lot of content. But
I've been streaming for 6 hours now. Gosh, dang it!
you need to get up and walk around before you get a blood clot.
I got up between mine and your stream.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, just want to say thank you to everyone for coming and hanging out this evening, and being a part of the show. We appreciate all the feedback and interaction from chat. Good to see everybody. Thank you for the raid from, I think it was Rexanonus or something like that. So yeah, it's been a really great show, and lots of fun hanging out with everybody. We do need to pay it forward and share the love. So if you have a suggestion on someone to raid, please drop it in the chat. Let's see.
So I have a question. Is Tuesday a better day for you other than Monday?
Until I get my set schedule is really kind of random. But I mean, Tuesday does. Let's see. Like next Tuesday, I work a 24-hour shift, but I'm off on Monday.
Oh, dang. Okay.
And but the following week, it's fine. The week of the 15th, I work a 24-hour shift on Monday because I had to move my days around.
So we'll do it Tuesday. So if we can like aim instead of Mondays for Tuesdays, I really like doing the pre-show.
Yeah, most Tuesdays would be better. So keep an eye out for that, everybody in chat, and we'll start aiming for Tuesdays if it works. Fairasalt is playing some Star Citizen. Is anyone? Let's see. Hankin
Don't
SC.
say anything yet. No, Hankin. 126 people. Dang.
Ostech.
He's doing
there we
some
go.
Overdrive Part 2. Fairasalt is doing Delivery with the Mule.
We're gonna send Ostech some love. Reclaimer racing practice for the what?
What are they doing?
It looks like he's watching the Salty Mike and Croncy.
ATC.
ATC. Let's find someone who's actually playing. There's a lot of people playing Star Citizen, trying to find.
Yeah, they are. That is French.
Hankin. Oh, Hinkin has 126 people. They're already at partner numbers. You guys sure? Oh no, I not gonna jump on the React bandwagon. That's not for me. We're gonna raid Fair Assault. Fair Assault's a friend.
Yep.
Okay. All right. We're gonna start the raid. Go send Fair Assault some love. Thanks so much for your support, everybody. Hope to see you in the next episode. We're gonna talk. Hopefully, the next episode we're gonna be able to talk about where Quantum is and why you should still be excited about it.
Woot.
All right. Rating. Cheers.
Bye.